I have created a brand new MLB team, and today we're starting the long journey of rebuilding the Portland Pickles and eventually winning them a World Series. Despite being one of the largest cities on the West Coast, Portland is very underrepresented in pro sports, notably lacking an NFL and an MLB team, while their NBA team, the Trailblazers, finished dead last in the Western Conference. However, in a shocking move, Oakland Athletics owner John Fisher has decided to ditch his Las Vegas plans to move the franchise to Portland. Then, needing a new team name, he bought all the branding and trademark of local summer league baseball team, the Portland Pickles. Yes, you heard me correctly. This is an actual real-life baseball team, and their mascot looks exactly like the cucumber from VeggieTales. In true John Fisher fashion, however, he gutted this entire roster, making it even worse than it was in Oakland, and I have been hired to take on the impossible task of leading this team to glory. There is not a single player on this team above 69 overall, and this entire roster is stacked full of players from other teams' minor league systems. All things considered, we are very lucky to even have a few players above D potential, but unlike any rebuild I've ever done, we have absolutely nothing for the future, and we're basically starting this farm system from scratch. Obviously, our lineup is pretty terrible, so any contact or power ratings, even in the low 60s or mid 50s, are absolutely wonderful, and it's pretty much going to be the same story for our pitching rotation. This is going to be a very long first year. It is opening day, where I'm very curious to see how this team's going to perform. Quan hits this one down the third baseline, where we have a chance to make a play, but the throw is definitely not going to be in time. It is very fitting that we gave up a hit to our first batter, but our ace is going to hold strong, forcing two infield pop-ups, and I don't know if his name's pronounced Winder or Winder, but I'm going to go with Winder because that's an awesome name for a pitcher. Whatever his name is, though, he's in trouble against Jose Ramirez, or at least I thought, until our third baseman made the play of his life, diving and throwing him out at first. There's a full house on opening day, which is only about 6,000 people, because this stadium is absolutely pathetic, and I have to imagine that if our owner wasn't willing to buy seats for the stands, he is not going to want to buy players. Regardless, it is a win right now that it's 0-0 and there's a punch out from Winder. I am pleasantly surprised that he's hitting all of his spots, and that has made this a very smooth first two innings, so hopefully our offense can get going. We have not gotten a hold of much of anything on offense. Andujar hit this one pretty well to left field, but right at the defender. We are still holding strong and collect our third strikeout, and it doesn't make much sense because control and Ks per 9 are Winder's lowest ratings, so I feel like it's only a matter of time before Winder gets shelled. That should have been a clean play at first, and instead it's gonna be a base hit. Laureano's definitely gonna steal here, so I'm going for the pickoff, which finally works for like the first time ever. I have never shown a successful pickoff on my channel because honestly, I don't think it's ever happened for me. So we get out of another inning waiting on our first hit, and we almost got it. Our offense will definitely be the death of us, especially because Winder's now getting tired in the fourth inning, giving up a single to Jose Ramirez to put runners at the corners. With only one out, you could say that we're in a pickle, so we need a double play. This is our chance, and for some reason, our shortstop threw it to first base. I really thought he had time to flip that one to second, and instead the Guardians were able to score the first run, and I would really prefer if we didn't get no hit in our first ever game. It is now the sixth inning where Bibby has a perfect game, but finally Matt Duffy is gonna break it up, and as you can see, the first guy to ever get on base for us has definitely bounced around the league, so this is a new opportunity in Portland. Hopefully our first hit in team history sparks a rally, but apparently I spoke too soon. That's immediately a double play, but only losing 2-0 in our first game is a huge win in my book. As an expansion team, we're just trying to see what we have this year, and clearly it's not very much, but at least we're only trailing by 2 to Boston, so I'm ready to see literally anyone step up, and Jesse Winker's not going to be that guy. Winker is a testament to how fast players can fall off in baseball, as he was one of the best outfielders in all of the league for several years, and just a few seasons later, he's not even the top-rated player on the Portland Pickles. I literally just want to win one game with this team, but that's going to be easier said than done, because even when we get something to hit, we are not making good contact. Because of how bad we are, I'm going to be checking the waiver wire every single week, and after 2 series, we still have not won a game. After 9 games, though, we could finally get in the win column against the Tigers, except Riley Green just hit an RBI up the middle. It looks like Jesse Winker heard me talking about him because he hit a 2-run bomb, and for his sake, hopefully we can hold on to our lead, but Kerry Carpenter just tied the game. This game could come down to the wire if we can get out of the inning, but unfortunately, don't even chase after that one. It is over the fence for a home run. We just blew a 4-run lead by giving up 7 in the 5th, but maybe it's not over, as we were able to hit a solo home run. Can this one get snuck up the middle? It will not, and the inning is over. Now we absolutely have to get this stop with 2 outs and runners at the corners, but of course, Harry Carpenter was able to obliterate this one for a 2-run double. What an absolute meltdown from the Portland Pickles, who may never win their first Major League Baseball game, but at least they put up 7 runs in this one. If there's any silver lining here, it's that we can finally scout players, and we need just about everything, so I'm going to mark starting pitcher shortstop, and center fielder. I think the best way to go about this is to scout pitching by position, but at least for the position players at the top of the draft, I'm going to try to scout them one by one and just hope I find a gem. Maybe that gem can be Mike Trout's long-lost cousin, Randy. And looking at our offensive numbers, getting a game-changing bat is an absolute must. The Pickles are in danger of starting out 0-10 as a brand new team, as here's a single in the bottom of the 8th. And obviously we all knew they were going to be bad, but this team is miserable as our center fielder got such a late reaction on it. This one's going to drop, but the runner's tagging from third base, and thankfully we're able to throw him out. We need to hold on with runners at the corners because it's 0-0, and this may be our best chance to win a game. We got the strikeout. This could be history for the Pickles if our offense can get going, but obviously that is easier said than done. I was really hoping that would stay fair. I'm very disappointed, but honestly, I shouldn't be surprised because I don't even think this lineup would win at the AAA level. There is some hope, but we need our 59 overall relief pitcher to get us to extra innings, and so far he's actually doing a very good job putting his first 2 batters away. We have to be very careful because one bad pitch could send us home with another loss, but Martinez is down to 2 strikes and he's gonna force a pop-up to send us to the 10th inning. We might be able to score a run with a man on second, and this is very good leverage to have because even one ground out like this one up the middle is gonna advance Matt Duffy to third. I am so nervous because we have never been this close to victory, and I think sacrifice bunting would be the smart move here since we have no power. Apparently not. We're gonna have to get creative if we want to win games, as we swung right through that slider and all the pressure is on our 59 overall pitcher. The good news here though is at least in real life, Javi Baez swings at everything, but I spoke too soon because unfortunately he's the one who's gonna break our heart. Thankfully, it looks like we have a pretty good first base option in the first round, and if you saw my 10-year Rockies video, you know this game loves to produce good pitching prospects. Simming ahead 1 game though, we're up 2 runs with the bases loaded. It is so important to score if we want to win our first game, and Andujar is gonna get it done with a single up the middle. I do not want to jinx anything, but after 44 games, the Pickles could finally win their first game ever, and I'm feeling very confident as our best relief pitchers in the game, but maybe I spoke too soon. Salvi Perez just turned on this one. We are giving chase in left field, but this one is long gone over the fence. As we've seen this season, this could get very ugly very fast, and I have to leave him in because nobody else has any stamina. All we need is one more out, and one swing can make this a 1-run game, as right on cue, Melendez turns on the very next pitch and sends it into right field over the fence. It is so frustrating that every time our offense gets going, our pitching falls off a cliff, so I'm hoping that the best defense can be more offense, but unfortunately, we ground into a double play. As we've seen this season, our 1-run leads do not tend to last long, but maybe this game's gonna be different. But we're being tested against Bobby Witt Jr. That one was not where it was supposed to be, and he takes advantage. The tying run is at second base, so we desperately need it out, and thankfully, this one is grounded over to Matt Duffy. It is the top of the 9th inning, where some more run support would be greatly appreciated, and Jamison Hanna turns on a beautiful pitch for a double. That very rare extra base hit from the Pickles is gonna give us a huge opportunity to take a 2-run lead, but why is Hanna taking off from second base? That was not the plan. He is thrown out by a mile. Are you kidding me? For these videos, I play on auto base running, and the CPU can make some terrible base running decisions, but in the end, we wouldn't have scored him, so it did not matter. We are 2 outs away from beating a pretty good Kansas City Royals team, and Renfroe's swinging bunt here is gonna make the magic number 1. It is all up to our closer to hold strong and make Pickles history, as Adam Frazier is down to his last strike, which is a high fastball, and he swings at it to officially gift the Portland Pickles their first win ever. It feels very good to get that one out of the way, and as scouting continues, it looks like we're gonna have a lot of options for the first pick of this franchise, which at this point is basically either gonna be a pitcher or Randy Trout, depending on if he's still there. Remember to drop a like and subscribe if you're invested in this Portland Pickles team and want to see more of my content, as we're definitely here for the long haul as I sim to the start of June, where we're only 55 games back in our division. This is our last week of scouting before the draft, where I might have found another position player option in the first round, and overall, I feel like we've set ourselves up very well for the draft to not only nail our first pick, but hopefully all 7. Usually in the MLB draft, I'm entirely thinking about the future, but the problem with this team is that we're so bad that we need some guys that can come in right now. While someone like Randy Trout is definitely our dream prospect because of his high floor and high ceiling, we might not be getting as many blue potential guys as usual, but we're going to be seeing higher overalls across the board. Someone like Mason Valenzuela is the perfect example of this, and he could very well be my second round selection. And also, if Trout doesn't work out, there is someone like JJ Miller further down the board who is definitely going to have a lower ceiling, but still projects to be pretty polished coming in. However, I've gone back and forth on whether I should take Randy Trout or Matt Dunbar, and even though Dunbar would be more of a risk, he's at a very valuable position. On the other hand, though, Trout is probably the best pure hitter in the entire class, so I think he has the edge right now. My first pick is definitely going to be a position player, but there are a lot of good pitchers on this board, and specifically our Discovery Scouts did a very good job of uncovering gems in this class, so I should have a lot of options as the draft goes on. I have gone ahead and put together a pretty long queue for us, but the worst case scenario is definitely that Trout and Dunbar are gone in the first 3 picks. This is our first MLB draft and really the start of the Portland Pickles rebuild, so I am super excited, and with just 1 pick to go, both of our guys are still on the board as Colorado went pitcher. That could not have worked out better for us, but now we have a very hard decision to make between Randy Trout and Matt Dunbar, and as I mentioned earlier, Dunbar's younger and has higher upside as a fielder, so in any other draft, I would definitely take Dunbar, but because of how bad we are, we definitely need a pure hitter, and Randy Trout's that guy and is the safest player in the draft, so he's going to become the first draft pick in Pickles history. Dunbar would end up going at number 7 to the Cardinals, so I hope I made the right decision, and I wanted to go pitcher in round 2, but we're already running out of options. Looking at our options for next selection, it's really between Daryl Papp, Chris Hayes, and Mason Valenzuela, and after losing out on a good infielder, I cannot pass up Valenzuela. Thankfully, our scouts found a couple good starting pitchers in Discovery, so we can get at least one of them, and both of them are still on my board in competitive round B, so I'm going to take the better of the bunch and Alex Nathan, who also is coming in with pretty good potential. There's also only 5 selections before our next pick, so Wally Booker, who is a very good contact hitting catcher, is definitely going to be my next pick, so we have already taken 3 offensive players. We still have 3 selections, but my queue only has 5 guys left in it, so I probably need to add some more players, especially because guys like James Goetz and Buster Dunning aren't going to last much longer. Maybe we can get lucky though and they'll fly under the radar, but even if they don't last, I think I found enough good prospects to last us for the rest of the draft. There's just 1 selection to go though, and they're gonna make it, and in round number 4, we are landing our 6th best player in the draft in closer James Goetz. I am very surprised because I did not expect to get him, prioritizing several other players, and I guess it makes sense because Discovery players last longer, but Buster Dunning is also still here, and I'm gonna take him. Now with my selection, I don't know much about anybody except for Joaquin Cabrera, so I'm gonna double up at third base and complete what should be a very successful draft. That brings us to the All-Star break, where we are 7-91, and I wish I could say there was some sort of silver lining for this, but I don't think there's a single player on this team who's even considered good. Our entire starting rotation has an ERA above 4.4, and I'm actually surprised that Brandon Bielik's having a good season, but everyone else is really not. We have not won a single game in July, and we are almost to 100 wins, but hopefully we can change that, tying this game against the Angels. That was easy, but the challenge comes in relying on our bullpen and scoring another run, and all I can think of is how much more fun this team's gonna be to play with next season. We need our best reliever to hold strong as he gives up a triple to Mike Trout, but gets out of the inning. If anybody has earned a spot on next year's roster, it is definitely him, but I'm very curious to see what happens here as this lineup does not hit well against lefties, and thankfully Dozier's gonna pull this into left field. There are 2 outs though, so we need our first baseman to come up big, and looking at his stat line, this is not very encouraging. We cannot afford to strand a runner at second base here. This one does not get through the infield, but it's not fielded cleanly. Can Juan's 23 speed get him to first base? It just barely does. That was way closer than it needed to be, and it's time to pinch hit Sam Haggerty, and he's a very valuable player for us because he hits lefties very well, but obviously not much else. All we need is 1 good pitch to hit, but of course we cannot turn on the first pitch we see, and that is a missed opportunity. To my surprise though, our bullpen is keeping us in this one, and I feel like as long as Tyler Anderson's in, we have a chance, but Matt Duffy just flew out to center field. Our first win of July is on the line here, as Alvarez is faced with a full count, but gets on base. That will extend our chance to take the lead in this game, but our catcher just flew out to right field. I cannot believe the Pickles are going to extra innings, and huge shout out to our bullpen for keeping things tied as Shenton's gonna single. That will not score the runner, but he gets to third base. There are still 0 outs, so this is our chance to finally take the lead, but right on cue, Hunter Dozier hits into a double play. It feels like we have missed every single chance to break this tie, and the frustration is finally over. Jesse Winker, thank you. I wish it could have ended right then and there, but we still have to close it out against the Angels, and facing the top of their lineup, Taylor Ward is easily able to drive one in. In just 1 at bat, they have played the Uno reverse card against us, and thankfully Mike Trout's not gonna walk it off, but there's nothing more annoying than having an unreliable bullpen as we are giving chase into left field, a late reaction, and Brandon Drury soars this over our head to walk it off, as once again the Pickles are on the other side of a heartbreak. That is gonna bring us to 100 losses on the year, and we just closed out a winless month of July. It has been a very painful year, but thankfully reinforcements are coming as Randy Trout ended up being 73 overall with 85 potential, and he is exactly as advertised. advertised. It is definitely weird not seeing any potentials above 90, but I feel like we did really well given the state of this team, as we were able to draft some sure prospects who can contribute right now. Trout, Valenzuela, and Booker should all immediately become starters for us, depending on what happens in the Rule 5 draft. And looking at Matt Dunbar for the Cardinals, I really think we made the right decision, because while he is younger, that power is simply not there, and he only has 83 potential. With the draft out of the way, I don't think there's much more to see from the worst team in MLB history, as we did not even crack 20 wins on the season and finished 83 games back in our division. I haven't mentioned it, but our division is going to make this a lot more challenging, with the Astros and the Rangers both being loaded, and on top of that, the Mariners may have the best rotation in baseball. Texas repeated as World Series champs, and to start the offseason, I am not bringing back any pending free agents. There are a lot of free agents here who could really help our team, but unfortunately, as you know, our owner has no desire to spend on a losing team, so any moves we make are going to be cheap, and they're going to come later in the offseason. I have gutted this team down to just 42 players, so we have a lot of work to do, and now that we're in the third stage of free agency, I'm going to make a couple of contract offers, starting with Nick Madrigal, who does not want that much money, and obviously he is not a power hitter, but everything else is pretty good. That is going to be my biggest contract of the offseason, but I also cannot miss out on a chance to add Gavin Sheets to the team, who only wants $2 million per year. These are the 4 offers I'm going to make for this stage, but there will definitely be more later, and right now, all my focus is on the draft lottery, because we just had a 19-win season, but even then, the lottery could completely screw us out of the #1 pick, which is exactly what it's going to do. The Boston Red Sox, with a 1.4% chance, just sniped it from us. That brings us to the Rule 5 draft, which I usually pay no attention to, but obviously, our team needs as much help as it can get, and with my first pick, I'm selecting starting pitcher Eric Lauer. After that, I decided to take 12 players in the Rule 5 draft, just because we have the roster spots to do it, and after signing a few more veterans to fill things out, this is the squad heading into Season 2. Even though Randy Trout's our best player, I'm going to be starting him in AAA for some good old-fashioned service time manipulation, so for the first part of the year, we're starting Dominic Smith and Jared Walsh. This lineup is much improved though, as we actually have some 70 overalls this year, and I think it's fair to say that this team should definitely crack 20 wins. It is opening day in season number 2, where our new ace Eric Lauer is faced with a full count, but is able to get out his first batter. Obviously, our rotation still is not very good, but this is a huge improvement from last season, so I'm actually really excited for this season, especially if our offense can produce, and so far they're off to a great start. Emmanuel Rivera has a first inning home run. It took so many games in season 1 to even come close to hitting one over the fence, so I am very excited, but obviously there is still a very long road for the Pickles to become an elite team. It is only a matter of time before Baltimore humbles us. This one is smoked down the first baseline and stays fair. That is going to score 2 runs for a triple. I enjoyed our lead while it lasted, but we're still only down 1 run, so this is a great opportunity for our new offense to step up. Here's our biggest free agent signing with 1 aboard, and I know Madrigal's not a very exciting player, but it would be amazing if he can get back to 2021 form. The thing about him is he has no power in his bat, but maybe we don't need it. This is a blooper that's gonna drop into center field, a classic Madrigal hit. Next up is longtime Rockies catcher Elias Diaz, who grounds it to Senzel, who is unable to field it cleanly, and that's gonna advance 2 runners. It feels so good to have a fresh batch of hitters, including Pavin Smith, whose first at bat as a Pickle is a 2-run single. I only signed him to fill a roster spot, but he has pretty decent attributes, and he's another guy who sparked at the start of his career, but definitely fell off. The series just started, but I am very invested in this team, and an opening day win against one of the best teams in baseball would send that hype to an all-time high. Emmanuel Rivera was the guy who got it all started with the home run, and even though he hit this one well, he is unable to capitalize for a second time. We really need to get some more run support, because it's only a matter of time before this offense wakes up, and Santander smacks this pitch down the line. This is going to be a tough throw. Mountcastle rounding third, headed for home. The throw comes in. It is in time. What a clutch play from Pavin Smith to prevent a run, but unfortunately, it would not stop Baltimore from tying the game back up. Now we're in a bit of trouble, but thankfully Mateo keeps it on the ground, and we prevent further damage. It is only the 4th inning, but we've already seen so much action, and Rutschman just went yard. That was followed by another home run from Gunnar Henderson, so we are down 2. But with 2 on base, we can get right back into it, but Rivera pops up. We're relying on Sheets with 2 outs, and a wild pitch is going to make this a little easier. Since we're facing a lefty, I'm pinch hitting Dominic Smith, and while he gives us a better chance, unfortunately, we were late on that pitch. After that, Baltimore rubs some salt in the wound, and despite the fact that we took a huge loss, you cannot deny that we are much better than last year. This game against the White Sox is going to tell us so much about our team, because after only winning 19 games, we are trying to show we are no longer the worst team in baseball, and early on, we're trying to prove it with a Pavin Pavin Smith grand salami. He really showed off some opposite field power, launching this into the left center gap, and I did not think it was gonna fly over the fence, but he came up with by far the clutchest play in Pickles history. Unless something crazy happens, we are going to beat the White Sox, and our offense is not slowing down, and that definitely feels good after ranking dead last in every single offensive category last season. And if you watched my Rockies rebuild, you know that Gavin Sheets can really mash as he delivers another home run. What an absolute statement win from this Pickles team, and that also helped them win their first series ever. I am pleasantly surprised that we are 4-6 to start the year, and obviously it's a very small sample size, but it's nice to see some of our new bats having success early on, but clearly our starting rotation still needs a lot of work. We're in extra innings against the Rays, and it would be amazing to beat a playoff team, and we have a chance to take the lead with a runner at third base, but Nick Madrigal is unable to get it done. This would be such a big win for us, but unfortunately the pieces are still not put together, especially with our pitching staff, as we had to watch them celebrate this walk-off win. That is so unfortunate because now we're on a losing streak, so I'm turning my attention to scouting for the number 2 pick, where we have a couple decent options for position players. We've been taking on a lot of good teams lately, so we're dialing it back a little bit against the Giants, and a pass ball just put 2 runners in scoring position for Jason Hayward, who flies out deep to left center field, but it's deep enough to score the go-ahead run. We have taken the lead at home, but that's not going to stop Gavin Sheets from adding to it with a deep no-doubter to right field. We just have to survive these 2 innings, and this is not the situation I want to be in with 2 outs, and thankfully Matos pops up to right field. After that, Pavin Smith hit a home run, so we won our first game in a while. After scouting Paul Arrington, I've officially found my favorite player in the draft, and I'm already getting very excited thinking about our offense with him and Randy Trout. We are 10-23 after the first month, and even though our hitting stats have come back down to earth, they are still very impressive, with Walsh and Hayward leading the team with 7 bombs. All the signs are showing me that this is going to be an extra inning game, and even though we've already been there quite a lot in this video, if you watch my channel, you know that that is not uncommon. With how our offense is played, I am fully confident in our ability to score the runner from second, and Madrigal gets it done. It is so nice to be playing with a team that has good enough ratings to not swing and miss at everything, because my original plan was to only play season number 1 in this video, and honestly with that terrible team, I don't think I would have survived, as Emmanuel Rivera just extended our lead with a double. That takes so much pressure off of our closer, and how about a sacrifice bunt from Colton Wong to extend our lead further, but unfortunately we did not get lucky that time. That is the first time the suicide squeeze has failed in several videos, so hopefully Fulmer can hold on to this lead, and there's another strikeout. We are just 1 out away from the win, but there's a walk, so there is no doubt that I am nervous, but thankfully with the winning run at the plate, Fulmer delivers his 3rd strikeout of the inning, and we get a come-from-behind victory. Rivera's 3 RBIs were really the reason we won that game, so I think now is the best time to bring up our highest-rated prospects in 18-year-old closing pitcher James Getz. He's immediately gonna become the best arm in our bullpen, so I'm really hoping he helps us win a few more of these close games, as we are in another one against Atlanta, but Nick Madrigal's gonna tie it up by launching a double into right center. Let me just say, I have no idea how the heck we held this Atlanta offense to only 2 runs, but obviously I can't complain, especially if we can somehow take the lead in the 9th inning and let our new pitcher close it out. We are already off to a very good start, with Culverson getting on first base, and make that second as this pitch gets away from Murphy. Terens has also fought back to make this a full count, and Bummer left this one right over the middle for him to dribble it up the middle to officially score the go-ahead run. Rivera's up after they intentionally walked Sam Haggerty for some reason, and clearly that was not a good decision because he just lined this one into left field to score 2 more. Thank God Atlanta got rid of Destroyer of Worlds Sam Haggerty, because now we have a very comfortable 3-run cushion to see our closer of the future, and look at that speed to go over and cover the bag. So far, this man is looking like the real thing, striking out Jared Kelenic, which honestly doesn't take that much work. But regardless, even though he didn't face their best players, he helped us get a huge win against a great team. That is the perfect way to go into the 2025 draft, where my first pick is either going to be Paul Arrington or Francisco Villanueva. Arrington has been my favorite prospect all season long, and we're probably looking at a mid-80s potential with a high 70s overall. And if Boston does take him at number 1, we'll grab a decent pitcher in Villanueva. I'm obviously not super worried about starting pitching though, because this class is loaded with talent, as it always is in MLB The Show 24. So either way, I think we walk away with at least 2 good arms. There is one pick standing in the way between us and the catcher of our dreams, and here's the big reveal from Boston. It is not going to be Arrington. We got so lucky. Honestly, I would not have been happy with any of my backup plans there. Paul Arrington is going to be a Portland Pickle. For whatever reason, the uniform just reset to the Athletics, but there he is in all of his glory, and I think we just got a good one. After that, I'm going to stay true to my board, and the Nationals just picked my favorite second round option at number 3. I don't think any of these pitchers pitchers are gonna fall, as one of them just went, so there's 3 remaining, and indeed 6 of them went in a row. That is fully okay because I was planning on taking a position player here anyways, and I really like John Shibuya because he has guaranteed high potential and can play anywhere in the infield. He's gonna be my second pick. To make things even better, we have back-to-back selections, so why not stay true to my board and start this draft selecting 3 position players in a row. They are way more valuable than pitchers, so I cannot pass up the opportunity. Everything is going to plan, as after the second round, I still have several pitchers remaining, and I'm gonna take my favorite one left on the board, in Ernest Crespo, who our Discovery Scouts did a great job of uncovering, so I really hope he lives up to his potential. If Pablo Cedeno's still there in the 4th, he's my next selection, but I do like Alejandro Germán. But after simulating ahead, it is very nice to see that both players are still available. 2 of my biggest rules for the draft are to always discover players because you never know who you're gonna get, and also prioritize taking position players in the early rounds because a lot of pitchers fall down the board. There is one more pick, so I have reloaded my queue in case some guys don't make it, but in hindsight, I did not have to do that because my top pick is still available in Damian Buettner, and we have taken another discovery pitcher. I really hope that draft turns out to be as good as possible because we could really use the young talent, and since we have so many players on 1-year deals, we could be calling on a lot of them to play immediately. We could go into the All-Star break very strong by beating Houston because right now we have a 1-run lead, but Kyle Tucker takes advantage of a slider left over the middle. This is getting very intense, especially because our pitchers have such low control, but thankfully we are able to get out of this inning. I want to give Gotts a chance to redeem his blown save against the Dodgers, but obviously some more run support would be greatly appreciated as Pavin Smith pops up. With 2 outs, it is all up to Gavin Sheets, who turns on this pitch into right field, giving it a drive and over the fence for a 2-run shot. That was the first pitch he saw, and it was a beauty, so that is going to take a lot of pressure off of our rookie. And that is a tough lesson delivered by Jose Altuve, who launches this one into the left field corner. As the throw's coming in, it is going to be very close, and Jose is thrown out. That bullet from Pavin Smith not only helped us secure this game, but we tied a 4-game series, so we're coming into the All-Star break with a lot of confidence after 2 wins in a row, and we are 3 games above the worst record in baseball. I kind of forgot about this, but last year, the only reason Matt Duffy became an All-Star for us is because every team needs to have one, and once again, as expected, we have no one near the top of voting, so I wonder who's gonna get the participation trophy. If I had to put in my pick for who deserves it, Christian Franklin only has 48 at-bats, while Sam Haggerty's been a platoon player, so I really think that Jared Walsh is our next best option. Then again, our bullpen has been very good, so it could also be Tom Cosgrove. I'm very curious who the game chose. It was not Tom Cosgrove, and it was not Jared Walsh. It was none other than Captain Slapstick Nick Madrigal with his 3 home runs, representing the AL West with Jose Altuve. Our first game out of the All-Star break is against the Texas Rangers, and with 2 on, down by 2, Emmanuel Rivera rips this one into left center field and over the fence for a home run. The 3-run shot is gonna give us a huge lead, and we have completely turned the tide on another division rival. In Randy Trout's struggles, we have been highlighting our rookie closer, and even though he had a couple bad games, he is really bouncing back. James Gotts has a chance to go 1-2-3 against a very good lineup, and he is gonna do exactly that, earning us the victory. It's worth noting that Randy Trout did have 2 hits in that game, but he's still batting 175, so I'm really hoping he can turn things around before the end of the year because he has a lot of upside. Now it is finally time to see how good our draft was, and this is a franchise-making moment, but I see a lot of blue. After a pretty lackluster draft, this is the perfect way to come back, as we have struck gold on pretty much every single one of our prospects, and suddenly the future looks very bright in Portland. I think the trade-off of getting all these good prospects is that Paul Arrington is definitely on the low end of his potential, and even though he's going to come in and play well right away, I was really hoping for a bit better. However, we're very lucky that everybody else in this draft class was at least in the middle range of their potential, because you never know what you're going to get. And how about Ernest Crespo, who's 18 years old, coming in at 68 overall? Him and Pablo Cedeno may be our arms of the future, and Damian Buettner was also a very good value for the 6th round. Our other option at number 2 also ended up being pretty good, and the guy I considered for my second pick, Diego Montez, has 89 potential. It looks like we're going to have another game come down to the wire, and earning a victory would help us double our win total from last season. It's kind of funny because that sounds impressive until I say we were the worst team in baseball history last season, so I guess you could say this Portland Pickles squad was kind of like that kid on your Little League team that was terrible but always won most improved, and at least in my case, that was me. I was always told that I should quit baseball because I'd never have a career in it, but look at me now, ma, I made it. While I was roasting myself, we managed to get 2 guys on board, and Colton Wong is gonna load the bases. There is only 1 out in the 8th inning for Emmanuel Rivera, and we've definitely seen him come up clutch this season as he scores the go-ahead RBI. We have the lead, but there's still 2 runners on for Gavin Sheets, but unfortunately, he flies out deep to right center. That is okay though, because James Gotts has been on a hot streak lately. He's looking for another save. After getting his confidence shattered by LA, he is back, and we've really turned our luck around after losing so many close games early in the year. There are less than 2 months left in the season, and even though we're 32 games back, we doubled our win total from last year. But one question remaining in this year is if Randy Trout can turn things around, and he got very lucky with the base hit, and with stats like these, maybe I should have considered sending him down a while ago, but I held off because his attributes are improving. I do think that bad luck could be a part of Trout's performance because he's hitting the ball really hard, but as we've seen, those hard hits have not gotten down, so at least he singles here. Even then though, it's been very frustrating only seeing singles because we know this guy has extra base potential. At least on the bright side, this is a multi-hit performance, and Trout's gonna add number 3 as the Pickles are down 1. Unfortunately, Colorado would hold off our comeback bid, but after that performance, Randy Trout is on a hot streak. Trout's hot streak must have extended to the rest of the team though, because this was the best month in Pickles history, and at the end of the month, we see Randy and his older cousin Mike earn Player of the Month honors. We're closing in on 50 wins entering September, and we're 3 games above the Red Sox for worst record, so maybe our goal for the rest of the year is to not finish last, and we just decimated the Angels 12-0, and even though Randy Trout didn't play, nearly our entire lineup got RBIs. Clearly we have a knack for playing in first games, but Pavin Smith in one swing is going to take the lead right back. That sounded good off the bat, and it's over the fence. It is always the most random players making the biggest plays for us, so you already know what time it is. We're bringing in the rookie. It has been a pretty up and down year for James Gotts, but in his defense, he's only 18, and 15 saves in half a year is pretty solid. Now against the Angels, he's trying to add number 16, and for all of you wonderful people who have made it to this point in the video, comment below who your favorite Portland Pickle has been this year. For whatever reason, mine is James Gotts, and he just won us another game as a rookie 4th round pick. By the way, Jared Walsh led the win in the last blowout win, and he had another 3 hits and 2 RBIs against his former squad. And honestly, when I signed him, I never expected him to be this productive, but I love a good underdog story. I'm having such a fun time recording this video, so I'm really excited to make the rest of the series. But we're up against the Dodgers and just gave up a go-ahead home run. Now the pressure's really on us, and usually we come up big in these situations, but not this time. If anything, I'm just amazed that we've survived against the Dodgers and have made this a close game, because our best player is only 76 overall. Fittingly, that player is Randy Trout, who has really come on lately, so now he's trying to help us tie this game, and he just blew out the pitcher's back, but unfortunately, he does not get aboard. Pavin Smith is our last chance, and he launched a clutch home run a few weeks ago, and is able to keep us alive here. The winning run, Kolten Wong is at the plate, and I really wish he could have turned on that curveball, but maybe this will work, but unfortunately, it is not deep enough, and just like earlier in the year, we lose a close one to LA. The Pickle season is coming to a close, but with 3 games to go, we have the worst record in baseball. This series against the Angels is gonna decide our fate, and in game number 1, we're down to our last out, trailing by 2 runs, as Kolten Wong bloops us into center field, but Trout tracks it down. We are also trailing in game number 2, so it's important we get something going, and Emmanuel Rivera, just like he has done all season long, comes through in the clutch with 2 RBIs. Losing this game would make it impossible to overtake Boston, so thankfully we score another run, and there's a chance to add even more in the 6th inning with 2 outs as Kolten Wong singles. This brings up Emmanuel Rivera once again, and he's gonna deliver another RBI, so we were able to win this game, which means the team with the worst record in the MLB will be decided in the last day of the year. Simply not being the worst team in the MLB would be such a win, and guess who it is? Emmanuel Rivera helping us out with a home run in the 9th inning. I cannot believe that he just did that to tie the game, and it is so fitting that we're going to extra innings, where we managed to get 3 outs in a row. Not much would make me happier than to end the season with a walk-off victory in extra innings, and Luis Torrens is able to do exactly that, as the Portland Pickles have ended season number 2 with 59 wins. At the very worst, we're going to tie with the Red Sox for worst record in the league, and we're going to have to go to the standings to see what happens, as I'm scrolling over to the American League wild card, and sure enough, we are not the worst team in Major League Baseball. We are closing the door on a very fun season, and we still have a chance to make them even better going into the offseason, which I'm very excited for because most of our contributors like Jared Walsh, Jason Hayward, Emmanuel Rivera, and Kolten Wong were all signed in free agency. The future is definitely bright for the Pickles, as our first ever draft pick Randy Trout played pretty badly at first, but definitely turned it around towards the end. And if we can fix a rotation that finished dead last in ERA and continue to build on a solid bullpen foundation, I think it's going to be a great season 3. We definitely have a long way to go before any of our guys start showing up in the major awards. And as you can see, the Phillies destroyed the Rangers' title defense in the World Series. Unfortunately for us, ownership does not want to bring back any pending free agents, but that's okay because because the only guy I really wanted to bring back was Dominic Smith, and he wants $3.7 million a year. To make up for these losses, I'm targeting a few veteran players in free agency, with our biggest signing potentially being David Fry, who we're offering just over $1 million a year to. Then in the draft lottery, we got very unlucky, falling by 2 spots, but we can make up for it in the Rule 5 draft, as I see at the very top of the list, Jacob Wilson, who was once in the Oakland A's organization, is sitting right here at number 2. I'm definitely gonna take him. Before the end of the offseason, I'm gonna sign 3 more free agents, and to start spring training, it feels very nice to have a full lineup of 70 overalls, along with a much improved pitching rotation. Unlike in previous years, our lineup is pretty much set coming into spring training, so I don't think I'm gonna touch it. However, the starting rotation is a completely different story, where we have 4 guys competing for the final 2 spots. We have a lot of time to figure this team out as we're down 1 run to the Dodgers, but maybe not for long, as Nick Madrigal lines a pitch into left field, and it is off the foul pole for a home run. This offseason's Rule 5 draft pickup Jacob Wilson is up, and is definitely looking to earn some more at-bats this season, smoking this one down the third base line to score the go-ahead run. We are leading by 2 runs, which means it's time to warm up James Getz, but obviously it would be very nice to give him an even bigger cushion, and David Fry is going to do exactly that with a double into left center. As a Mariners fan, I am very scared to say this, but I'm actually starting to believe in this team, and apparently that's awful timing because Getz gave up an RBI. The Dodgers have definitely been his kryptonite, as he blew a save against him his rookie year, as he's now facing Mookie Betts, who he walks. The bad memories are coming back for James, as Freddie Freeman is in to pinch hit, and this Nick Madrigal style blooper is going to make it a 1-run game. Of course, the Dodgers found a way to bring in Nolan Arenado, and it's not like the Dodgers are making good contact. I really think we're just running into bad luck. Still though, it is very rare to see the 19-year-old closer struggle, as he just left a free curveball over the plate, and the Dodgers have once again walked it off against James Getz. I don't really take spring training stats that seriously, but it's nice to see Randy Trout put together numbers behind the scenes, as Emmanuel Rivera also led the team with 6 home runs and was second with 15 RBIs. Checking out our rotation though, it was mostly bad, but I am very surprised to see Eric Lauer pitch 37 innings with a 2.89 ERA. This is Eric Lauer's second year as our ace after picking him in the Rule 5 draft, and unfortunately his opening day is not off to a great start. That is very surprising because he had an incredible spring, so now an offense that I hyped up this entire video needs to go to work, and Nick Gordon's gonna do exactly that, turning on a high fastball for a leadoff double. It only took us 1 at-bat to get a runner in scoring position, and Emmanuel Rivera, just like he did all last year, comes through in the clutch. Just real quick, I do want to swap our home and away jerseys, and the only reason I haven't done it yet is because in MLB The Show, you have to wait until the offseason to rebrand your team, so it's only a matter of time before the Pickles have the right uniforms. Here's Randy Trout after a bounce-back inning from Eric Lauer, and in his first at-bat of the season, he dribbles this one the other way for a double. I ran a poll on YouTube for your favorite Portland Pickle, and Randy was the overwhelming favorite, and now on opening day, he has a chance to be the tying run in the second inning against the Pirates. David Fry's gonna fly out, but it's more than enough for a sacrifice fly. That was Fry's first RBI in a Pickles uniform, and I'm really hoping we can get more out of the 30-year-old because he does have a pretty balanced skill set and the utility to play multiple positions, which was the reason that I signed him to a 4-year deal. But obviously, I'm hoping that he can follow in the footsteps of our other free agents. That pitch was not where it was supposed to be, and of course Juan Soto takes advantage. It is very clear to me that our success will not come until our farm system develops, because Juan Soto's showing us that we need superstars to win. Emmanuel Rivera's faced with a full count, and unfortunately he should have swung there, so no matter how much value we wring out of him or Gavin Sheets, they will never turn into Juan Soto. Lauer honestly might not even make it 5 innings, but at least props to him for still striking out batters, as we just need 1 more against former athletic Tyler Soderstrom, and he gets revenge against his former organization, picking up an RBI single. I've loved the challenge of building a team from scratch, but it has been painful, and since we're still really bad in season number 3, comment down below when you think this team is going to make the playoffs. Back to opening day though, we're in a pretty good spot with runners at the corners, and Randy Trout has driven in his first RBI of the year. We are out hitting the Pirates 8-6 in this one, but hit number 9 is a no-doubter to center field to give the Portland Pickles the lead on opening day. I feel like everybody is rooting for Gavin Sheets to turn it around after a slightly disappointing year, but obviously this team believes in him because he's hitting 3rd in the lineup, and unlike Nick Madrigal, actually has power. This is our first time having the lead, so we need to capitalize, and Randy Trout has his 3rd hit going the other way. He's not hitting the cover off the ball, but I'll definitely take it, because simply getting on base is enough to build a young player's confidence, and speaking of building confidence, confidence, David Fry now has 4 RBIs. How about them Pickles, as a 2-run blast gives us a 7-4 lead. However, a 3-run lead is not enough for a team with such low-rated pitchers, and Henry Davis is immediately gonna make us pay. We just pulled Brendan Beck, but unfortunately the runner on third base was able to tie the game, so this opening day game continues to go back and forth, as there's one aboard for Nick Madrigal, who makes good contact into center field, but unfortunately not good enough. Suddenly the Pirates have a chance to take their lead back, and we're not even gonna run after that one. Sawinski hit it to the parking lot as we suffer a very disappointing loss. But on the bright side, I can't think of many other games where we've scored 8 runs. We'll be okay if we continue that momentum as we win our first game. So this third game will decide the series, but it looks like the Pirates swooped it away from us. We blew that game despite being up 3-0 in the 8th inning, so I'm turning my attention to scouting, where once again, we have a very pitcher-heavy class, and it doesn't look like there are any generational players. A blue-chip center fielder like Benny Bergeron would be perfect for our team, because right now the farm is really lacking some outfield talent. Looking at the top 100 prospects list though, it is very encouraging to see Pablo Cedeno at number 4, and then even more encouraging, it does not take a lot of scrolling to get to our next 2 guys after that, as we now have 7 players in the top 100. Our offense is getting put to the test early on in the season against the Seattle Mariners, who have a very good pitching staff, but down by 1, there are runners at the corners for Randy Trout, who pops it up. That is very unfortunate, because now there are 2 outs for Jared Walsh, who grounds out, and just like all of you, I was really hoping Trout could come through in the clutch, because we haven't really seen that from him yet. It might not have mattered anyways though, because Seattle added another run, but down to our last out, maybe there's still a chance, as we just got our second runner aboard. I want to bring in a pinch hitter for Terran Vavra, but there's nobody available, so we just need him to survive with Emmanuel Rivera on deck, and that pitch was way too juicy to not swing at, and we got beat by our division rival. We do avoid the sweep though, taking the last game, which is very good, but we need to keep that momentum going into this game against the Astros, who just tied the game. Obviously, we're not aiming for the middle of the plate, but because our pitchers' control ratings are so bad, that's often where it ends up, as they score the go-ahead run. And I just realized that even though we're playing a lot of close games, we have not seen James Gotts yet, because there's no save chances. Our bullpen's rough start to the year continues with a grand slam, and I know it's only been a couple series, but these stats are looking nothing like they did last year, as scrolling to the bottom, Nick Madrigal is really struggling with a 361 OPS, while these bullpen ERAs show you everything you need to know about the pitching. Somehow though, we won our next game against Houston, and might even win this series, but our bullpen collapsed again. With such a limited budget, it might take a while before we can get good pitching, but while I'm confident we'll keep drafting good potential starters, we also need to look at the bullpen, because early on this year, that has been our kryptonite. We desperately need some momentum, and there's no better team to get that against than the Chicago White Sox, because unlike the Astros and the Mariners, they're actually a beatable team. However, because we left 2 runners on in the 7th, we're tied up at 4 apiece, and even though we're forcing a lot of late counts, they never seem to go in our favor. Now, this is usually where our bullpen falls apart, but we might have finally found a reliable option in Rule 5 draft pick Tyler Alexander. He definitely doesn't have crazy stuff, but what the veteran does have is 87 walks per 9, which if you didn't know is the most important sim stat for a pitcher. After 3 strong innings from Alexander, we're in the 9th, looking to take the lead as Canzone turns on this one into right field, but it is not gonna drop. In true Pickles fashion, this could easily become our first extra innings game of the season, so it all comes down to Nick Gordon, who swings through a curveball. All we need to take the lead is another sacrifice fly, and luckily David Fry was up to the plate, because he's already delivered a few of those this year. This is the first time this year James Gotts has gotten in a game, and while his simulation numbers have not been good this year, he does have 5 saves. This is now very intense, facing Luis Rober, who walks, and now they have a chance to match the Pickles sacrifice fly, which Eloy Jimenez is gonna do, blooping this into shallow right field, where Gavin Sheets is waiting with an absolute cannon. The throw coming in, it is in time, but Fry could not handle it cleanly, and of course the Chicago White Sox have walked it off. I really want to blame David Fry's defense in this game, but he did have 2 RBIs, so I guess the better solution is to not play David Fry at catcher, even though it's a secondary position. But if you remember, we're only playing him there because last year's first round pick Paul Arrington is not ready. The start of the season has actually not been that bad, because we still have not been swept to this point, so it's actually pretty impressive that we've won 7 games. One of my goals for this year is to not finish last in our division, and obviously that might seem tough because our division is loaded, but this Angels team is definitely our first to jump. They're definitely more of a threat in this game than in real life, with a healthy Mike Trout along with a big trade they made for Josh Young, but we have a chance to grow on our new lead in this matchup, but unfortunately David Fry comes up empty. We just need to to rely on our bullpen for 3 innings, and so far, so good. But obviously, our pitching can blow up at any second, so we really need some more run support. Randy Trout bloops this one into left center for his 3rd hit of the day. It seems like every time I look at a game log, Randy Trout has a big day, and obviously this is great, but we need him to score a run, and right now it looks like that's not going to happen as we ground into a double play, but thankfully a defensive error goes our way for once. That means that 2 are on with 1 out for Jacob Wilson, who has definitely struggled this year, but this one stayed in the air forever and dropped in for an RBI. We are so lucky to be in this position, and how about a sacrifice bunt? It worked very well in the first episode, but apparently not this time. We have a 2-run cushion in the 8th inning for Mike Trout, which makes me feel a lot better as he grounds out, and there's an awesome shot of Trout and Trout. Here's Randy with 1 on in the 8th inning, and even though he made decent contact here, the other Trout did not have a long run to get it. We were unable to score any more runs, so hopefully James Gotts doesn't blow another save, and I'm definitely a bit concerned with 1 guy on, and you've got to be kidding me. We are gonna watch that one go deep into left center field as Gotts just completely missed the spot on his fastball, and Brandon Drury tied the game. I don't want to overreact with it being so early in the year, but this is not the player we saw last year. But now the last thing we want is to give Los Angeles the lead. Nice play at first base, Randy, the flip, and the double play. We cannot afford to go to extra innings with only 1 healthy reliever left, and thankfully Gavin Sheets starts the 9th legging this out, so I would really like to wrap this game up, but Jacob Wilson hit into a double play, except not because we took out their ankles. You gotta love to see the Pickles getting dirty out there, but of course, it's all for Nick Madrigal to pop out, so we're going to the 10th, where literally our only option is to leave in Gotts against Mike Trout, and as you all probably saw coming, that fastball missed the spot, and after starting the year hitting dingers, our offense is also slowing down. The Pickles need to get their power back, and that could start with this bases loaded opportunity against the Cardinals, where Randy Trout is gonna give this one a ride, going all the way back to the wall for his first career grand slam. My biggest concern with Trout is that he hasn't been clutch, but that time he came through when his team needed him the most. There is no doubt he's been our best offensive player in this first month, hitting .308, and he single-handedly won the Pickles this game. We finished April at 11-21, and while I'm thankful we're not the worst team in baseball, we are on pace to be a little worse than last year. However, I definitely suspect we're gonna turn things around because our offensive numbers look nowhere close to where they were last year, as key contributors like Jared Walsh are struggling so far this season, alongside another platoon guy like Sam Haggerty, who went from hitting .280 and .270 all the way down to .187. But without a doubt, the biggest disappointment for the Pickles this year has been David Fry, who is only hitting .158 with a .423 OPS. Tyler Alexander is the only guy who's been consistently good for us this year, and even he's a regressing veteran. And in the starting rotation, Lauer and Armand definitely stick out, but that's only because the rest of our options are so bad. It feels like no matter what we do, when the bases are loaded, we're gonna allow at least 1 run, and this time is no exception. So we're now trailing by 1 run, and Fry should have obliterated that, but I guess it makes sense he missed because he's batting .150, so I don't know why the CPU has him so high up in the order. Then unfortunately, the Guardians would score 3 more runs, so after 2 innings, we're trailing by 4 runs, but Gavin Sheets is gonna make this a little less painful. I'm willing to be very patient for this reclamation project to pay off, but unfortunately, he's not having a great year, so we lost another game that we jumped into. I can't tell if we were either luckier than normal last year or just unlucky this year, but I have to do something to change this team, and I think the best move is to bring up Paul Arrington, who might be hitting the majors a little bit early, but I don't think we have a choice. I would also be a huge fool if I didn't bring up our 2nd draft pick of the entire series in Mason Valenzuela, who's hitting .343 at AAA. Obviously, I'm hoping that these moves can spark our offense, but more than anything, I'm excited to have an actual catcher who plays catcher, because the David Fry experiment was an absolute disaster, and I'm never doing that again. Meanwhile, we're in the middle of May, and we just beat the Texas Rangers by scoring 3 runs in the 8th inning, so we have the huge opportunity to earn a series win against our division rival, but it looks like we're gonna need extra innings to get it done as Valenzuela flies out. Unfortunately, former Oakland A Jordan Diaz went yard, and it seems our window to win this game rapidly slammed shut. It's a real bummer we could not walk it off, but we have another chance in Game 3. Our best reliever just cost us a game, so my expectations are low, but so far, Brendan Beck has handled this lineup well, at least until Jonah Heim doubled into right field. We are so lucky this game is tied, and I really want this walk-off, but Randy Trout was a quick first out, and now Gavin Sheets can't keep it fair. It would be great if Sheets could deliver another clutch home run, but he comes up very short, so it looks like we are once again going to extra innings in the game that decides this series. I cannot put into into words how important a series win would be, especially against Texas, who recently won 2 World Series. There's been no reason to take Brendan Beck out of the game. Once again, I'm speaking too soon, but thankfully Sheets tracks it down. This is our second chance at a signature walk-off win, and I can't believe Trayce Thompson didn't murder that pitch, but thankfully he gets aboard. Please stay at third base. That sets up a perfect chance for Paul Arrington, the rookie, to get it done, and on the very first pitch he saw, he's gonna do exactly that, driving in the winning run as the Pickles have won the series against the Texas Rangers. That happened so fast that it wasn't really that dramatic, but it is so cool that both of the guys we recently called up both had RBIs in this game to win us the series. We're still losing a lot of ground in our division, but it's great to see guys improving like Gavin Sheets and Jacob Wilson, who I did not even expect to be any good this year. The most interesting thing about this team, though, is that this pitching rotation actually doesn't look half bad anymore, as for the first time in Pickles history, we're not in the bottom 5 in ERA and not even the bottom 10, as we're coming in at number 11. It feels like we're slowly becoming a more complete team, but I still cannot stand leaving the bases loaded, especially since Trayce Thompson and the rest of our offense has kind of fallen off. However, Sheets is one of the guys who has not been struggling, and even though this is great contact to right center field, it is not going to drop, so our defective offense is going to make a rally very difficult, but at least Valenzuela came through. Even in tough losses, I'm glad our rookies get playing time, because as you can tell just looking at this roster, we are playing the long game, and that all starts with the farm system. We're taking on the Dodgers after only winning 1 game against Chicago, and Trayce Thompson flew out with runners at the corners, so we need Brendan Beck to hold on, striking out Ohtani, but now Mookie Betts is up, who hits this one right up the middle to get 2 on base. This is not a good situation, but thankfully Beck delivers, so once again, we're trying to let this game come down to the wire, and there is no way Nick Madrigal gets a hold of one deep into left center field, and it is going to go all the way. There's the power we saw in spring training that ties it up against LA, and plays like that are my favorite part of building this team, because our entire roster is full of kind of reject players, so I'm finding it a lot easier to root for them. Even winning 1 game against the Dodgers with a team that puts Moneyball on steroids would be a great accomplishment, especially for all of the loyal fans at Pickle Park as Randy Trout gets aboard. With 2 outs though, it looks like we're gonna strand him on base, and Dylan Tate just caught that behind his back to end the inning. Apparently Mason Valenzuela has an 11-game hit streak, but facing a 2-2 count in the 9th, it looks like that may end in this game. It is still awesome to see a rookie having so much success, and Paul Arrington almost had a double. I wish I had that one back as we're going to the 10th, where Alexander is in and retires the side. We simply have not capitalized on walk-off opportunities this season, but if there's anyone who can clutch up, it's Emmanuel Rivera, especially because we're going up against a lefty. We really need him to get a pitch to hit, and unfortunately, this is right at the second baseman. At least he advanced the runner to third, where Randy Trout has a chance to end the game, but why did I swing at that? I literally saw the pitch breaking and told myself not to swing, but I definitely got greedy thinking about Randy Trout winning us the game, and Tyler Alexander got us out of it. I will not be happy if we blow our 3rd walk-off chance, as here's a full count for Nick Madrigal, and I tried to check swing. That is so unfortunate, especially as Sheets chops into a ground out, but at least for us, Alexander has been dealing. This has been a rare gem performance from our bullpen, but unfortunately nothing can last forever, and the Dodgers have scored the go-ahead run. There is more pressure than ever, but Arrington draws an 8-pitch walk, which puts the tying and the winning runs at the plate for Dominic Canzone, who goes the other way, getting a hold of this one into left field, going all the way to the fence for a 3-run walk-off home run. Our 9-hitter Dominic Canzone has done it, delivering the biggest signature win of the entire series, and I honestly did not think he'd find the power for that one. What a game. In true Pickles fashion, we had to make it as dramatic as possible, but I'm sure glad we did, because that's a series win against Los Angeles. Amazingly though, we didn't just win the series against LA, but we also swept them, so Portland has won 6 out of their last 10 games. It really looks like our pitching has settled down, as we won another series against Arizona in a game where Jordan Lyles pitched a 7-inning shutout. But now we're trailing by 2 runs to the Atlanta Braves, where Valenzuela lines a single. I'm showing this game because I want to see how we perform in the clutch against a team like Atlanta, as David Fry obliterated this line drive going over Azuna's head, and if it hadn't hopped over the fence, we would have scored. At least we have 2 in scoring position for Randy Trout, who unfortunately pops up, so it's all up to Sam Haggerty, who usually hits lefties pretty well, but not this time. I really thought we could rally back, but the Braves slammed the door on us, and suddenly we're on a 5-game losing streak. To start July, we have the worst record in the American League, so even though there's been a lot of fun moments, we're about as bad as I expected. We're down 1, looking to bounce back against the Rangers, and Gavin Sheets is going to help with a big home run into right field. I'm so glad he's become one of our best hitters this season, and right now he's leading our team in home runs, RBIs, and OPS. This is what I was hoping for when I signed Gavin Sheets, so even though it took him a year to get to this point, it is very well worth it. We have turned this into another tie 9th inning game where Emmanuel Rivera makes good contact to center field, but it's clearly not far enough. This is the last game I'm gonna play before the draft, so it would definitely be great to go out on top, but Mason Valenzuela, who has 3 hits today, is not able to get number 4. James Gotts has been removed from the closer role due to his struggles this season, but it clearly doesn't matter because there's already 2 runners on base, and this is absolutely obliterated by Patrick Wisdom into center field for a 3-run walk-off home run. I do not know what has happened to Gotts because he was dealing last season, but clearly something needs to change because his ERA is over 7. I think that is the perfect way to sum up the first half of this year, but on a more positive note, it is really nice to see Paul Arrington putting up some good numbers, especially for a catcher. Also, this is the first year where I think our starting rotation has at least been a bit of a bright spot, especially with Brendan Beck earning the number 4 spot. If we play our cards right, I really feel like this draft could elevate us to the number 1 farm system in all of baseball, since we are already pretty close and it's only season 3. We've had a lot of good drafts, but this could be the best one yet, especially if we could get our hands on Alfredo Carrasco, who has a chance to be generational. If we strike out on him, I think my backup has to be Brian Lozano because of his contact skills, and there's also several pitchers who I could take if all else fails. It is almost impossible for Alfredo to last, but after the first picks, we've already seen 2 pitchers, so maybe the entire league has somehow overlooked this guy, but he's going to the Giants right in front of us. That was almost very exciting, but Brian Lozano is not a bad backup option and should be very similar to Randy Trout, coming in with a very high floor. I will always value position players over pitchers in the first round because, as we found out, there are so many good pitchers, especially late in the draft, that we can take advantage of. Sure enough, this remains true as Bob Hiller, our 10th best player, is still available and we're gonna take him. Unfortunately though, my next favorite player, Dominic Carrara, went off the board earlier than expected, so now I'm stuck between either taking another pitcher or James K, who has 90 to 95 potential, but would definitely be too early of a pick. After what happened with Carrara, I don't want to risk anything, so James K is going to be my next selection, and hopefully he's not a bust. Now I have 20 seconds to decide between 2 pitchers, and Charlie Stout, who's a little bit older but more polished, and Joel Morales, who is definitely going to come in raw, and with just a few seconds left, I think I need to take the risk and go for Morales. We definitely don't need another pitcher, so I think it's time to go with our best position player available, which is going to be Jorge Cardenas, who once again is another high potential prospect. However, in round 5, there's only 1 position player left, and even though I have not scouted him, I think I need to take a chance on that potential range. I built so much of my draft plan around taking Dominic Carrara in CB round B, so him getting taken early definitely threw off my entire plan, as we're in round 6, where I think the best option is to go for this starting pitcher and end our 3rd draft. Full disclosure, my game froze in the very first game after the draft, so I had to redo it, and even though things look a little bit different, I still took these same players. I feel like that was the most fair way I could have possibly handled that unfortunate situation, and for the 2nd year in a row, Nick Madrigal is gonna become our mandatory all-star. We desperately need our second half of the season to be better, but down 1 against Kansas City, Valenzuela grounds into a double play, and out of all of our issues, I think leaving runners on base has been our biggest, so that's something we really need to work on. Randy Trout makes good contact right to the center fielder. Trout has definitely cooled down after a hot start, so he needs to refine his momentum, because more than anything, our team needs consistent offensive producers, and we just have not found them yet. To my surprise, our bullpen keeps bailing us out, so this team of bench bats really needs to come into its own. But with a man on second base, here's Mason Valenzuela, who turns on this pitch into right field, and the rookie is able to tie the game on a ground rule double. I think Mason has the best chance out of anyone to break out in the second half, but don't forget about Randy Trout, who singled to put runners at the corners for Nick Gordon, who hit this one well, but unfortunately it's tracked down. We left even more runners on base, so we missed out on a chance to take the lead, but Arrington singles to start the 9th, which is definitely a favorable situation for us, especially as Castro homers to left field for an opposite field walk-off home run. He does not hit righties well at all, but he waited on the pitch he wanted and obliterated it for a huge win. I brought in Castro as another option against lefties, but the only problem is he's been literally the worst player on the team, so I'm really hoping that game marks the turnaround for several offensive players. Immediately after though, we're in another close game against KC, who for some reason intentionally walked David Fry, and all that's gonna do is bring up stud rookie catcher Paul Arrington, who's going the other way with this one, where it will be caught, but that will be enough to tag the runner from third. It has been a rough season for James Getz, but I'm giving him another save chance because I think he can turn it around, and it would be a huge confidence boost if he could come in and close this game out for us, which he's able to do. The trade deadline is approaching, and a lot of you were asking me why I haven't made any deals yet, and previously my answer for that is that we had nothing to trade, but this video is very different. Our ace, Eric Lauer, only has 1 year left on his deal, and just because I'm curious, I want to see how much it would cost to bring him back, and in any other franchise, I would be willing to pay him $6 million a year, but you have to remember that our owner is the stingy John Fisher. The Atlanta Braves have the offense to go all the way, but looking at their starting pitching, they could use one more guy to solidify their rotation, so I'm sending them Eric Lauer for a Project B potential pitcher in Lionel Bridges, alongside a throw-in bullpen arm. I really feel like this move is good for both sides, and we're able to get done our first trade of the series. Entering the month of August, we are 38-72, which is not ideal, but we have a chance to start the month strong with a big win over Toronto. It is 2-1, so big props to our bullpen for keeping us in this one as Paul Arrington turns on a pitch into left field, but unfortunately, we're not going to see his first in-game home run. I feel like every game we play is way closer than it needs to be, but honestly, I think that's what has made this series so much fun, even though we suck. I have never had such a blast rooting for a losing team, and for all of our homegrown talent, such as guys like James Getz, who's trying to earn another save. Unfortunately for him though, he is not off to a good start, giving up 2 singles in a row, and right now, some of you might be screaming at me to pull him, but unlike you, I believe in him as we're able to get the win. That is a great way to start the month, but things are only going to get more exciting because we can finally see our draft class ratings, and there we go, that is a lot of blue. Brian Lozano definitely continues our trend of drafting high floor position players in the first round, but then from there, Bob Hiller has 87 potential before we get to James K, who we knew was going to be good, but he is better than I could have ever imagined with 99 potential. We found a future superstar with our third pick, but even after that, we ended the draft strong with 2 pitchers and 2 position players. The most painful part of this draft though is Dominic Carrara has 99 potential, and even worse, because my game froze, he's going to our division rivals, the Astros. Our division keeps getting tougher, but hopefully after that draft class, we are a step closer to catching them, as apparently this is a player lock game with Gavin Sheets, but even though I didn't get a cutscene for it, Dominic Canzone walked it off. Sheets has been without a doubt the best player on the Pickles, leading the team in basically every single offensive category there is. Another win against Seattle would win us the series, and after a 2 home run performance last game, Gavin Sheets is up looking to walk it off. Unfortunately, he struck out, but this line drive sounded very good off Nick Gordon's bat, and because of how short our wall is, it's gonna hop into the seats. The winning run is at second for Paul Arrington, who got just a bit greedy, flying out in foul territory, so that means it's all up to Trace Thompson, who was also just a little bit late. We're going to extra innings. This would be an awesome series win to give us momentum for the rest of the season, but unfortunately, Jorge Polanco just scored the go-ahead run, so right now we're in a huge pickle, but Sam Haggerty hits lefties extremely well, and up against his former team, the Seattle Mariners, 1 swing is all he needs to walk it off. Our good luck at the end of last year might be coming back at just the right time, as we won a series against the Mariners, and just like last season, we're in a very close race for the worst record in baseball. After getting swept by Baltimore, we rebounded with 2 wins to Toronto, so a sweep is on the line in this tie 9th inning game. In true Pickles fashion, this big moment will be decided in extra innings, and Dominic Canzone is gonna make it a little easier. That is a 2-run shot for a player who has been on fire lately, and your Portland Pickles have earned a huge sweep against the Blue Jays. That gives us 6 wins in our last 10, and someone who's been a little quiet but deserves recognition is Mason Valenzuela, whose stats are slowly improving. To my surprise, losing Eric Lauer has not really hurt this team because his replacement Jonathan Boland is playing really well, while it's definitely encouraging that Getz no longer has a 7 ERA. For nearly all standards, this is not a successful season, but we only have to win 8 games to beat our previous record of 59, and on top of all of that, we have our first 80 overall player, Randy Trout, and if you remember, just 2 seasons ago, we didn't even have a single player who was 70 overall, but now that criteria passes for pretty much half of our organization. This team has changed so much, and I think all of us would be happy if they could win 60 games, as this deep 3-run shot from David Fry is definitely gonna help. We have shown the ability to beat high-profile teams, and that is a beautiful play at first base from Trout, but now I think the next challenge for the Pickles is to find a way to win these games a bit more consistently. Canzone hit a single, but unfortunately, Rivera is gonna leave him at first, so at this point in the year, I've accepted that we might not have a single decisive victory victory this season, and I'll embrace the chaos ball. All of these close games on my YouTube channel are definitely going to take about 10 years off my life, but it would all be worth it if James Getz could close out the Orioles. But now he's facing off against Jose Caballero, who, if we scroll down, has hit for the cycle today. It is crazy that out of Baltimore's very talented team, he was the one to do it, and thankfully for us, it looks like he was due to get out at some point. It is James Getz versus Adley Rutschman for the final out of this game, and Adley swung at a pitch out of the zone, which is popped up, and we have beat Baltimore. For all the losses, there have been so many memorable wins this year, but finally, here's a decisive victory as we beat the Texas Rangers 12-5 in a game where Mason Valenzuela had 4 hits and 2 RBIs, and it looks like him, David Fry, and Nick Gordon all homered. Earlier this season, Patrick Wisdom walked it off against us, and I thought it would be different this time, but we left a curveball in the zone that he demolishes. Things did not get any better after that as they hit a grand slam, so Texas pulled away for a revenge win. If we hadn't blown that 1-run lead, we would have won the series, but regardless, I will take a split against a playoff team. It's also looking like we're not going to be the worst team in baseball, but we could potentially even be the 3rd worst. That would be awesome. Our 56th win could come in our very next game against the Padres, as here's a double play, and James Getz is going to get a chance to close this one out. I did not realize he hasn't gotten a single win, but he does have more saves than last year, and if he wants another one, he needs to be careful against Machado. There's a beautiful strikeout. He is up against the heart of the Padres order, and here's a full count against Tatis and another edge strikeout. Camposano is the last out he needs to get, but unfortunately he singles, so the winning run, Mauricio Dubon, is at the plate, and thankfully he pops it up to right field, and James Getz has survived once again. Even in season number 3, we are seeing the backbone of this organization start to form, and it's very exciting, especially considering there is a whole farm of key contributors who are not even at the MLB level yet. I'm looking to jump into a few more games as we sweep the Angels, and up to this point in the series, nobody has won any awards for the Pickles, but that could all change with Paul Arrington in 2nd for Rookie of the Year. Having the Rookie of the Year winner would give us another first-round draft pick, so since we've already passed our win total from last year, I think this is a great final goal. Another win against the Yankees got us up to 61 wins, and I really wish Arrington could face some more lefties because he's having a hard time squaring these up. At least we won that game, but now in a blowout against the Angels, Paul Arrington is going to drive in 2 runs. That will certainly help his case for Rookie of the Year, as here's another hit, and with just a week left in the year, he is in 1st place. Unfortunately though, I don't think we can get a first-round pick because he didn't start at the major league level, so that does take some of the importance out of it, but it would still be really cool to have our first award winner. It would be really fun to end the season strong against the Texas Rangers. Randy Trout deep to center field. Does it have the distance for a grand slam? It does not. Even though it seems like this video is coming to an end, we still have an entire offseason to go through as Nick Madrigal's going into the right center gap, giving this a drive. It's not going to go over the fence, but it will be a ground rule double. This is the last game I'll be showing this season, and how fitting that Paul Arrington is going to collect an RBI to make it a 1-run game. All in all, this has been a very successful season, and now Dom Canzone's trying to leave us with fireworks, launching a lead-taking no-doubter to straightaway center. If we had started this season as well as we ended it, we would definitely have a winning record right now, and bringing up our rookies Paul Arrington and Mason Valenzuela absolutely turned this team around. I cannot wait to see what this group of players can do with a full year under their belt in season 4 as Randy Trout hits this one past the left fielder for a bases clearing double. James Getz is in to close out the year strong, and his final batter is going to be former Oakland Athletic Jordan Diaz, who pops up the low and away slider, and the Portland Pickles ends with a win against the Rangers. Our improvement from season 2 to 3 was monumental because at this time last year we were celebrating being the 2nd worst team in baseball, while this year there were 6 teams who had a worse record than we did. Also, we could be celebrating our first ever award winner if Paul Arrington does win Rookie of the Year, but James Wood came out of nowhere to steal it away from him. I'm also pretty sure this is a bug because for some reason Arrington has a full year of service, but Mason Valenzuela, who we brought up on the same day, only has 146 games. I have never come across that before, and it shouldn't have happened, but regardless, I'm very proud of what this team was able to do this season with 5 hitters above 700 OPS, and what a year for Gavin Sheets, who hit 22 home runs, while the rookies Paul Arrington and Mason Valenzuela were right behind him. And I definitely can't call our pitching rotation good, but they were certainly better than last year, while our bullpen was especially crucial in the many close games that we played this year. This year, our pitching rotation was 15th in ERA, while to my surprise, it was our offense that struggled this year, finishing 30th in total runs. The Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series, and following the end of the year, Jordan Lyles decided to retire. We only have 3 free agents to bring back, and I don't even remember signing Yan Gomez, but aside from him, Trace Thompson had a pretty good year, but he's regressed a ton, while Sam Haggerty is one of the original Pickles, but I don't think our owner would want to give him $3 million. Therefore, I'm letting all of these guys test the market. Just like always, free agency for the Pickles means digging through the Goodwill bins to try to find any value, but out of everybody, I think that Nelson Velasquez is the guy I'm most excited about because he could be a great fix to our home run problem. Now it's time for another draft lottery, which has never hurt us, and for the second straight year, we're picking at number 4. That will be another great chance to add to a farm system that is already getting extremely good very fast, as we have a ton of A and B potentials. I just found a very good problem because we have a massive logjam at third base, and even though I mentioned trading Emmanuel Rivera, that's probably a deadline move, so the odd man out is the other Emmanuel. Valdez is 28 with positional flexibility, and he doesn't hit free agency for another 5 years, and I found a potential playoff team looking for a starting third baseman. Valdez would immediately become their top option, and I believe a fair return for him is 18-year-old second baseman Dan Castilla. I am making this move. A good comparison for him is Mason Valenzuela, and I feel like we needed some younger prospects in our middle infield. Our farm system keeps improving as we have 11 top 100 prospects with Pablo Cedeno, Ernest Crespo, and Hoyt Harnett in the top 15, so I'm really excited to see who comes up to the majors next. Opening day rosters are set, but that does not mean I'm necessarily done adding to this team, because if you go to the waiver wire, as you can see, there are a ton of players available. Our former ace Eric Lauer is here with a $7 million a year contract, which is obviously too much for us, but I really like the idea of adding Daniel Lynch, and I'm gonna do it. Another guy who really intrigues me is Matt Waldron, who has 5 years before he hits free agency, so I'm definitely gonna claim him, along with Sixto Sanchez, who is 28 with B potential. Simming ahead, we did get all 5 of the guys that we went after, so our pitching staff is now full of new faces. There's a reason they say that one man's trash is another man's treasure, as we gave up a hit on our first pitch of opening day, but here is a double play to end the inning. If we can start the season with a win against the Blue Jays, that would be a huge confidence boost, but our first at bat did not go the same way as theirs did, and Valenzuela also grounds out. Maybe Gavin Sheets can get us momentum, and honestly, he looks like a Greek god standing up there. He's literally huge. It would be so great if he could put up another 20 home run season, but so far, this game is a pitching clinic. Ever since giving up a hit to his first batter, Domingo Germán has looked very good, or at least I thought so, as that is an easy double. Now I'm curious to see how he does with a runner in scoring position. Unfortunately, Springer rips it right up the middle, and Kirk will score the first run of the season. We need our offense to get going, and I was hoping Velasquez could provide a spark, but that's a pop-up. And now here's Randy Trout's first at-bat of the season, and it is literally the same result. We missed out on 2 pitches that were straight down the middle, and Toronto scores again, so we've already dug ourselves a hole as finally Nick Gordon is going to deliver our first hit. This could be our chance to rally as we finally have a runner in scoring position, and even though this sounded good off of Valenzuela's bat, it is not going to be deep enough to advance Gordon, who's gonna go anyway for some reason, and auto base running always strikes in the worst moments. That is so unfortunate, especially because Gavin Sheets would have just scored him on our first home run of the year. I'm kicking myself because it could be 3-2 right now and Velasquez singles, so maybe we can keep the rally going, but Randy Trout grounds out. Thankfully, Germán tossed a scoreless inning, and if we were facing 2022 Alek Manoah, the comeback would be out of the question, but he's definitely had his struggles, and that slider smack dab in the middle of the plate is exactly what I'm talking about. After a terrible first year with the Pickles, Fry has gone yard on opening day, and suddenly we are back to a 1-run game as Madrigal hits a classic single. Thankfully for us, this inning is still younger than the girls that Wander Franco's into, and we have a real opportunity as Manoah's losing his control, but right on cue, we ground into a double play. This might be Germán's last inning if he can even survive this long, as Cavan Biggio gives us a ride deep into left center field for Canzone, who cannot get it, to put runners at 2 and 3. We're welcoming Jorge Alcala to the Pickles in a bases loaded situation, and if he gets us out of this one, I'm beginning construction on a statue. There is 1 out, so we just need a double play with the bases loaded. Ask and you shall receive. Thank you, Jorge. The baseball gods have given us another chance to come back, especially because Jorge is out here dealing. It is the 7th inning stretch, and Fry popped up a home run pitch, and we once again did not score. We are leaning on our waiver wire relievers, and Dylan Coleman's another guy I'm very glad we picked up. This is another chance to rally down 1, but we're up against flamethrower Andres Munoz, and the mix of him and Jose Alvarado is gonna make this really hard. It is so hard to catch up to this fastball fastball, so we get embarrassed by the slider. But at least now we get to test out another new bullpen arm in Jimmy Herget, and that is not good. At least on the bright side, they didn't score a run, but on the very next pitch, Tyrone Taylor takes it. But regardless of whether we can rally back here, the improvement is on display. We did get one man on board, but facing a lefty, there were no pinch hit options for Gavin Sheets, who grounds into a double play. We are down to our last out for Vaughn Grisham, who we signed this offseason, and of course he singles, which sets up a clutch moment for Randy Trout. That first pitch, though, did not give me a lot of hope. He makes contact up the middle, but it's fielded cleanly, just barely, and we lose on opening day. Gavin Sheets and David Fry homered, but 2 runs on 8 hits is unacceptable, as we're going to simulate the rest of the series, which earns us our first and second win. Splitting the series is a great start to the year, and then to start our next series against the Red Sox, we scored 11 runs on 5 homers. Another win would give us our first series victory, but this game is tied up at 0 in the 8th, so once again, the Pickles are sweating it out. It's only been a few games, but David Fry is off to a very encouraging start to the year, and now he has the chance to keep this inning alive. He is battling with a full count, and I thought that was going to be a slider. That really sucks, but thankfully Falter's going to hold it down. So now we have a walk-off chance, starting with Randy Trout, who was super late on this one. Going the other way, it stays fair and will be a double. Starting the inning with a runner on second is huge, but suddenly there are 2 outs for Paul Arrington, and the second-year catcher gets this one by the second baseman to get Trout to third, rounding it and headed for home as the throw is offline. The biggest sign of this team's growth may be that we didn't need to go to extra innings to win. And don't look now, but we're 4-2 and make that 5-2. If the season ended after 3 weeks, we'd be in the playoffs, but we all know that it doesn't, so let's look at scouting for the first time. For the third time in the series, we are picking at number 4 overall, and there are not a lot of good position player options once again, but going down the board, I do see some guaranteed high potential prospects who we could target with our first couple picks. This game against the Astros is going to tell us so much about our team, and I guess they have Cody Bellinger now, who grounds into a double play. Waiver wire pickup Daniel Lynch has struggled so far this season, but he's having a great game today, so it would be great to give him some more run support, and right on cue, Jared Walsh watches that one go to right center. One of our best players from season 2 has been pretty quiet over the past couple years, and unfortunately at 33 years old, this season has been no different, but huge props to him for waking up at the right time. Lynch has only allowed 1 hit to this loaded lineup, but make it 2, and while his stamina is still in a good spot, another hit is making me nervous. After a walk, I decided to pull him, and there is no way Dylan Coleman's first pitch is a grand slam. That is terrible timing, as he's been good all year long, but as a lifelong Mariners fan, I feel like I've seen that a lot. Tough play for Jeremy Pena, and he's got him. This game went from amazing to terrible all in one swing, and now we're fighting for our life, as it's gonna take a miracle going up against Josh Hader. Randy Trout makes good contact deep to right center field, and for a second I thought that one was gonna have the distance. We are down to our last out, and it's Vaughn Grisham, and wait 1 second, we are not done here yet. The free agent signing on his first pitch hits a huge home run, so there is a ray of hope as I am pinch hitting David Fry. This is a big deal, but we're already down 0-2, so maybe my excitement's for nothing, as here's contact straight to the right fielder, which means the Astros have come back to defeat us. We've had a lot of heartbreaking losses in 4 seasons, but this one takes the cake, as they also bust out the brooms against us and drop us out of the wild card race. Fittingly, the Mariners are in last place, and in our next game, we're tied with them 11-11, and this is a very important one for us to win, not only because we would take the series, but also to stay out of last place. Thankfully, we're in a great spot in the bottom of the 9th with the bases loaded, but Canzone, the former Mariner, grounded into a double play. We cannot afford to blow this, and here's the intentional walk, so we might actually blow this, but it is now or never for Jared Walsh, and we just got a little too excited. If he was a nanosecond later on that, it's a grand slam, so we left the bases loaded in a walk-off opportunity, and now in extra innings, Josh Bell bloops it into left center field, where I thought it would get down, but David Fry made a great play. He is out of position, but it didn't stop him going parallel to the ground, so even on defense, David Fry is enjoying a breakout year. Hopefully second time's a charm for a walk-off. Valenzuela makes great contact, but it's caught. So now here's the man who saved the game on defense, delivering on offense, as we finally beat the Mariners and stay out of last place. We really needed another series win before going on a brutal stretch against the Rangers and the Astros. And I know we've been talking about David Fry's great year, but Mason Valenzuela has quietly been the best player on the team, hitting .340 with a .543 slugging percentage. That's just ridiculous. We need a rally, down 3 to the Astros with the bases loaded, and that's not gonna do it. So if we want any chance to win this game, we cannot allow a another run, as Jake Myers is going to test a throw from third base, coming in hot from Canzone. It is in time. That's impressive, but we still need 3 runs off Josh Hader, and it's very unlikely, but it would be very cool. Unfortunately, the inning is not off to a good start after a Madrigal pop-up, followed by this Canzone flyout. So as expected, the Pickles take another loss, but at least on the bright side, it was another big game from Mason Valenzuela. This has been a brutal stretch of games as we lost another one, and we are in last place, but at least from looking at the stats, this is the best last place team I have ever seen. Another series win could be the ticket to catching Seattle in the division, and Nick Gordon is not messing around, breaking the tie. What a statement to break the tie as Nelson got hit in the cheeks. So there's one on board for Randy Trout, who's trying to turn his season around, getting a hold of this one into right center, and it is over the fence for a home run. Randy has finally done it, and I hope that's a sign of things to come as we secured another series win. It is now time for the MLB draft, where my plan is to take one of these 2 shortstops, with my favorite being Juan Espinosa. My plans are usually more suspenseful, but I cannot pass on the opportunity to add a powerful catcher, and lucky for us, 3 pitchers went in the first 3 picks, so I'm getting my guy. Everything that happens after this depends on how the board falls, but funny enough, another shortstop might be my next target. We have reached our pick where Elroy Sun is still on the board, and with that potential range, it's honestly a no-brainer, but now the second round is a bit more unknown, as there are still a lot of pitchers available, and as you know, in MLB The Show, a lot of these guys will fall to later rounds, so I'm going to take a player who doesn't necessarily have the highest potential range, but he does have a guaranteed high floor and high contact skills, along with the versatility to play multiple positions, but he does have a very high overall, along with great contact abilities and position flexibility, so I'm going to take Chris Bush. Now in round 3, all the discovery pitchers I found are still on the board, so once again, I'm going best position player available, and that is high potential third baseman Dominic Tippett. Now in round 4, I could finally go pitcher, but instead, I think I'm going to double up at third base, grabbing Guadalupe Moreno, who's just too good to pass up. Getting too many high potential infielders is a good problem to have, so now we can finally start taking pitchers, and I really just need one of these guys out of 2 to work out, as Will Hughes is here with 86 to 89 potential. He is our final selection. But like I said earlier, we're probably the best last place team I've ever seen, and if we were in another division, we would certainly be competing for the title. Matt Waldron is up here not just putting up good numbers, but arguably Cy Young numbers. However, right after Bailey Falter, there's definitely a bit of a drop-off, as our guys are definitely starting to get a bit older. Getting all those bullpen arms off the waiver wire was huge, because our pen has been great this season, but funny enough, that does not apply to our highest overall pitcher, James Getz, who is not performing very well. Ever since I called him a bust though, Randy Trout has been turning things around, and look at all of these upgrades, specifically +8 to power versus lefties. By the way, I was wondering about this, but checking the awards, Matt Waldron is indeed in 3rd place for the Cy Young, and along with that, he's our first All-Star who didn't make it by default. We actually had an All-Star who earned it this season, unlike Nick Madrigal, who got it 2 years in a row just because every team needs to have one, but I wouldn't be surprised if we had one more scrolling through, and there is David Fry, who has definitely earned it with a team-leading 932 OPS. This Pickles team is really starting to come together, and they're going to be chasing the playoffs in the second half. Our first game out of the break is against the Houston Astros, and Domingo Armand's in a bit of trouble with the bases loaded as Yordan Alvarez is going to hit a grand slam. After starting the season as our ace, he has fallen down to our 5th starter for a good reason, and it's very unfortunate because we had a chance to start off the second half on a good note, but at least Nelson Velasquez went yard. That was not an ideal first game, and it's so annoying watching this Astros team get better with Zach Gallen, Cody Bellinger, and Josh Hader. We clearly need to do something to get better, and with the trade deadline approaching, I have one player on my mind, and that is outfielder Dominic Fletcher, who the White Sox are willing to sell on. A potential outfielder, Matt Higgins, is the highlight of this return because he still has 6 years of control and even has a chance to play right away for Chicago. After that move, we do need to clear a roster spot, so I'm trading Jared Walsh for a bullpen arm. Here's what our lineup looks like after the trade, and I'm really hoping it sparks our offense to win this series against Texas. We're leading 1-0, but we're looking for some insurance runs. Emmanuel Rivera into right center field, where it is caught. Unfortunately, Texas tied the game, and then they took the lead with a 2-run shot, so after blowing the lead, we are on our way to losing another series to the Rangers. We just can't seem to get past them, but on the bright side, Dominic Fletcher did hit a home run, and he's become our 5th 80 overall player. I was thinking about trading Emmanuel Rivera, but we definitely need him for our playoff run, and because he's very happy here and isn't asking for a lot of money, I wanted to offer him an extension, but of course, our owner doesn't want to do that. Apparently, $3.8 million for Nick Madrigal was as high as he was willing to go. So the fact we're even close to the playoffs is unbelievable, and in this game against the Giants, David Fry just drove in the go-ahead run. We have made the most out of every penny that we've spent, and Dominic Canzone is driving this one deep into left center field, and that will surely score David Fry as it is off the back of the wall. That was a 5-run 6th inning, so apparently the Astros and the Rangers are the only team we struggle against. After winning the series, we're 55-50, but we slipped 1.5 games out of the wild card. If we want a chance to make the playoffs, we have to start beating playoff teams, and up 2 runs against the Orioles, we're looking to do exactly that. Another run in the 8th would likely ice it, so this is a big opportunity for Dominic Fletcher, who got a meatball but couldn't deliver. At least he had the speed to leg it out, so it wasn't an inning-ending double play as Madrigal got this to drop in center field, and here's the speed from Fletcher, rounding third, headed for home for the weirdest RBI I've ever seen. That was the most Portland Pickles way we could have possibly scored, and now Getz is gonna close it out, as we were able to take down a playoff team. However, after another win, we're going for the sweep, and obviously I don't need to tell you how big this would be for the Pickles, as the bases are loaded with a full count, and Gavin Sheets shoots this one up the middle. That is gonna score a run. Another is coming around as the throw comes in and Nick Gordon's out. That was so close, but this game's gonna remain tied going into the 8th, where our starter Daniel Lynch is still in the game and he retires the side. Now we have a prime chance to take the lead, but after an ugly swing and miss from Fletcher, Trout goes down looking. I feel pretty good about a lefty going up against Gunnar Henderson, but he lays down a bunt and I think he has the speed to beat it out. I was definitely not expecting that, but it is okay because Mountcastle grounded into a double play. So imagine how cool it would be if a 9th inning walk-off secured a series sweep. Unfortunately, we have our work cut out for us, and that's not gonna help. So Nick Gordon is our last chance, and he swings at the first pitch he saw, but unfortunately, it is going to be run down. This is not an offense I want to face in extras, but the good news is at least they're hitting first, so we'll have a chance to match them if they score. Down to their last out, we retire the side, so the heart of our order is gonna get a walk-off opportunity, and here's Gavin Sheets, who gets out on an edge fastball. We missed another walk-off chance, but Alcala's dealing, so maybe the bottom of the 11th is our time to shine as the new guy Fletcher smacks it past the infield, and that is going to score the walk-off run. That completes a series sweep against one of the American League's finest, but I still can't believe we're in last place, even though we're half a game out of the wild card. While the present day is finally starting to look good for the Pickles, we're also looking forward to the future because we finally get a chance to see our draft rankings, and that is a lot of blue, as we really made the most of every single selection, and once again have put together a very promising draft class. Starting at the top though, we struck gold with Juan Espinosa, who has 89 potential and is already 75 overall with great power for a shortstop. But just in case one shortstop wasn't enough, we went back-to-back getting Elroy Sun, who's more of a project and will probably slide to second base, but he has a very high ceiling. After that, I didn't have a lot of players to pick in this range, but I'm really glad I went with Chris Bush because he has a very good bench skill set with good contact skills and many secondary positions. After that, I grabbed not one, but 2 high potential third basemen, and as I always seem to do, I ended the draft getting 2 pitchers who both look very good. I know this was a very infield heavy draft, but that's honestly just the way my board unfolded, and I always go best player available because you can always trade prospects. Before the season ends, I want to check in on how some of the prospects are doing, but obviously I'm very invested in this Pickles season because the wild card race is basically going through our division as we're up against the Angels. The pitchers we picked up on waivers deserve so much credit because without guys like Jorge Alcala, Sixto Sanchez, and especially Matt Waldron, we probably wouldn't be here. Sanchez is still scoreless in the 7th, and it feels like the first team to score will end up winning this one. And in the 8th inning, the Pickles are looking to get going. Nick Gordon just slapped a single into left center. I am feeling very good with Dominic Fletcher at the plate as he's able to dribble it past the second baseman to score the go-ahead run. However, there are still 0 outs and plenty of chances to do more damage. Nick Madrigal into right field, which is definitely a flyout, but advances the runner. So there's a man at third for Randy Trout, and with a full count, the runners are taking off, but he hit it right at the first baseman. By the way, for all of you Randy Trout fans, his numbers are looking better and better, so he's still doing good, even though it feels like he never performs on camera. I would love to add another insurance run in the 9th as Sheets smokes this one over the shortstop's head for a double. So we have a chance to go up 2-0, and for the 2nd inning in a row, there's runners at the corners. Dom Canzone has a clutch opportunity, but will definitely take a hit by pitch as Fry grounds it to second base, the flip to home, and back to first for the double play. We have left too many runners on, so thankfully Nick Gordon sprays this up the middle to score not 1, but 2 RBIs. From our experience with James Getz, I'm glad he has run support because sometimes he really likes to make me nervous nervous as the bases are loaded. All we can really do is sweat it out. As LA is down to their final out, here's a chopper to Madrigal, and we are able to survive. That is a big win against a division rival, and every win counts because there's 4 ALS teams in the wild card. We're gonna see how things pan out in the final 2 months, but for now let's take a break and look at our farm system, because we lead the MLB with 11 top 100 prospects. We have 2 of the best 3 pitching prospects in baseball in Pablo Cedeno and Ernest Crespo, and they have both improved a ton over the last couple seasons, leading our AA pitching staff with some excellent numbers, as Cedeno particularly has a 1.95 ERA and a 1.05 whip. We could see both of these guys come up as early as next year, along with former second round pick 23-year-old Alex Nathan. Looking at position players, there's still a ways to go for Hoyt Harnett, but the same cannot be said for last year's first rounder Brian Lozano, who has emerged as probably our most pro-ready player. Then there's Wally Booker, who we drafted in the 3rd round of our first ever draft, and as a contact hitting catcher, I could bring him up as our backup very soon. With our new draft class coming in, we're gonna have a logjam of position players, which I think is a very good problem, but definitely start remembering a lot of these names for the future, because we're not stopping the series until the Pickles become a dynasty. This is a bad time to start losing games, as we got swept twice in a row, and 2 new teams have jumped us in the wild card, so we desperately need to get back on track, but Cy Young candidate Matt Waldron gave up a run. That makes it a 1-1 tie against the Tigers, as Velasquez gets aboard with a single, but there's 2 outs for Dominic Fletcher, but forget about it, he hits the bat flip. That is a no doubt home run. We really needed that, so what a play from the trade acquisition, as the Pickles have taken the lead right back, and we secured a much needed win. In our second game against Detroit, we're also trailing by 1-0, but make that a little worse because Torkelson just went yard. We really needed this series to overcome our losing skid and at least Castro homers, so I guess it's not over just yet as Valenzuela singles, but it's gonna take a miracle to rally back from these 2 runs, and there's 2 guys on base now. I'm starting to believe, and maybe that's a bad idea as Paul Arrington flies out, but here's David Fry, who's been awesome this season, but he pops up a home run pitch into foul territory. That is very unfortunate because we lost another series, and our next 3 are against very good teams. This is a very bad time for some of our most important offensive players to be on cold streaks, as we lost the series to Tampa but split with the Yankees, so at least we're still hanging on at 500. The Braves have the best offense in baseball, so we're trying to take the lead in this game against them, but a double play is gonna leave the bases loaded. Maybe a win could help us get out of this rut, but it was only a matter of time before their offense broke through, so a Nick Madrigal single is not gonna save us now, but maybe it will if this can get down in right field, but Acuna tracks it down, so the Braves completed another sweep. We have only won 6 games in the month of August, and it's so unfortunate our year is falling apart. The first 4 months of the year showed us that we have the young talent to compete with any team in the league, but they still need another year or 2 of seasoning. But after winning 3 of 4 to Chicago, the playoffs are still not out of the question. However, to start September, we're in danger of getting swept by the Dodgers, and that should have been blasted, but instead we lost another important game by 1 run. Now we're ending the season against 5 very good teams, so I'm just gonna assume that we're toast if we lose another series, as we're trailing by 2 runs to the Rangers, and Dominic Fletcher hit an absolute moonshot going back to the wall where it is over the fence. A 3-run shot has given us the lead, and even if we don't make the playoffs, I am very glad we traded for Dominic Fletcher, because he, along with David Fry, have emerged as all-stars, and that one looked very good coming off the bat, but it's a flyout. Now Dylan Coleman retired the side, so this looks like another James Getz save chance, and Randy Trout just keeps getting unlucky. He hit that ball so hard my controller vibrated, but it went right at somebody. So it's time for Getz against Adolis Garcia, who is down to 2 strikes, but hit this one back to Gordon, who rolls over. What a play! The throw to first is in time. Thanks to Nick Gordon, the big threat is out of the way, so now there's only 1 out left for him to get to complete a very low drama save. Now all we can do is hope that sparks something for the rest of the series, and apparently it didn't. And after 2 more series losses to Seattle and Arizona, I think I've accepted our fate. Our late season collapse has been very unfortunate, but on the bright side, I know that myself, along with several of you, never expected us to get this far in season number 4, and there's a huge home run for Dominic Fletcher. We can still end this season on a good note, and since the Astros caused the start of our downfall, it would be very fitting for it to be against them. James Getz has been good in the second half, and our 1-run lead and our pride is in his hands. What a beautiful changeup to give us a therapeutic victory against the Astros. That would be a great way to wrap up the story of season 4, but this game is too juicy to not jump into, so this will be the last game we play of the video before we really have some fun in the offseason. And how about Nick Madrigal giving us the lead? Very quietly, Madrigal has put put together his best season with the Pickles, and that is very cool because he still has another year left on his deal. As someone who struggled this season, Paul Arrington just scored 2 more. On the bright side, we have improved faster than any other team in Major League Baseball, and that should only continue because our core is still improving, and we're going to see a huge wave of Major League prospects come up. But while I was optimistically discussing our future, we gave up a ton of runs and the lead. It would be so fitting if this season ended with a late game collapse, because in the grand scheme of the year, that is exactly how it happened. So I would love to break this curse and get a rally going, but Madrigal flew out. This has not been a good year for Paul Arrington, and now he could be our last out of the season, but at the same time, he could also be the hero. I would be perfectly happy with a walk in this situation, but he said no. He singled right up the middle. That's gonna score the tying run. You gotta love the heart from our second-year catcher, because he has given us the chance to go to extra innings as this ball is crushed and we're not out of the woods yet. I am begging Bailey Falter with 2 outs to just send us to the 10th, but unfortunately, it is not gonna happen that way. That single is easily gonna score the walk-off run, and in the saddest possible fashion, we are closing the door on season number 4. Things were looking so good after a 4-run 7th inning, but just like the rest of our season, it came crashing down as we finished with 76 wins. Just like you probably are, I'm very disappointed by this, but we saw some great developments this year, with the biggest one arguably being the improvement of David Fry. Nelson Velasquez also enjoyed a career season, while Randy Trout shed the bust label and Mason Valenzuela had another great year. I did not realize how much Matt Waldron would change our rotation when I signed him off the scrap heap, but pretty soon we're gonna find out if he won the Cy Young. But aside from him, this rotation really was not good. On the other hand though, our bullpen was a true bright spot, and huge shout out to James Getz for getting his ERA back under 4. This was easily his best season as a Pickle, picking up 40 saves, so despite all the emotional whiplash of this season, I am very excited to improve this team and get back at it next year. For the second year in a row, Aaron Judge won AL MVP. In the moment of truth, Matt Waldron is not even a Cy Young finalist. I guess that makes sense because Zach Gallen had an amazing year, so along with Paul Arrington's snub last year, we are still waiting on our first award. On the bright side, the last team we beat this season won the World Series, but now going into free agency, we're letting all 3 of these players walk. However, looking across the rest of our roster, I think we have a lot of very good options to replace them, especially because we just drafted Juan Espinosa. The tough part about improving though is that our owner is not happy with how many arbitration salaries we have to give out, so after those hit, there's no way he's giving us much money to work with, and that is very unfortunate for this offseason especially because this free agency class is completely loaded. We were only able to put out 1 offer in stage 1, and now in stage 4, I found a player I would really like in Brian De La Cruz, but all I can really afford is this lowball offer. There is no way he's gonna accept that, but I simmed all the way to February where he is not on the offer sheet, and sure enough, he signed with the Portland Pickles. This guy mashes left-handed hitting, but he's also not just a platoon bat, and I honestly cannot believe we got him for stupid cheap because I never expected him to even consider that deal. Here's our projected lineup next season when we inject Brian De La Cruz, and it's fair to say that we should be even more of a problem, as entering season 5, we almost have a whole page of 80 overalls, which is definitely a sign that we've improved a ton just over the past couple seasons. It is the beginning of the regular season, which means the waiver wire is gonna be loaded. There are so many good players here, but the guy who really catches my attention is Chang from the Pirates. You won't catch me trying to pronounce his first name, but I'm gonna claim him, along with Cade Horton, because I don't really know why he's here. It is opening day against the Boston Red Sox, where Brian De La Cruz got a hold of one deep into center field for a flyout, and we saw that a lot in spring training, but I'm still looking forward to seeing what him and Dominic Fletcher can do at the top of the lineup. Matt Waldron is making the start with that crazy knuckleball, and Randy Trout makes a great play at first base to record an out, but I'm definitely glad we don't have to face Waldron because that is disgusting. On defense, we already saw Randy Trout get on his knees for the Pickles, and now he grounds one up the middle past the pitcher and beats out the throw for the first hit of the season. That was a very uninspiring first hit of season 5, and it's not going to make a difference because in the 3rd inning, we're still scoreless and Waldron has a no-hitter going. This is the perfect opportunity to get him some run support as Dominic Fletcher gets aboard, and now Velasquez is testing Fenway Park's left field wall, turning on an inside pitch and giving it a ride all the way to the top seats for a home run. The very first runs of the season were very important as we've taken the lead, and Randy Trout just secured a multi-hit game followed by Gavin Sheets. That gets 2 aboard for Nick Madrigal, but he lets it hang in the air going the other way, and we leave both runners on. We're still okay though, because Matt Waldron is still rocking a no-hitter, at least until Jarren Duran turns on the knuckleball for a home run. That is an immediate answer for the Red Sox, but with Rafael Devers up, I'm glad it didn't get any worse, as we could really use another run to pull away from the Red Sox, but there's a nice play at third base to retire the side. Thankfully for us, Matt Waldron has been lights out, because aside from a home run, our offense has not done anything but make it to Gavin Sheets to straightaway center. One of our biggest sluggers was gonna send one at some point, and Sheets is another guy looking for a bit of a rebound year after a slightly disappointing 2027. The glare from the sun is definitely a part of the reason things have been very low scoring today, as with a man on second, the Red Sox just cut this back to a one-run game. So we're getting set up for a very interesting ending on opening day as Valenzuela has his first hit of the year. I feel like I have to squint just to see the ball, and it's definitely thrown off our timing throughout this game. So I'm definitely thankful Velasquez and Sheets hit home runs, because we would not be winning this without them. In the bottom of the 8th, we brought in our setup man Dylan Coleman, who had a pretty solid year last season, but after giving up a single to his first batter, I'm definitely nervous, because Jarren Duran already hit one home run but strikes out. All he needs is one more out to get out of the inning, which he's able to secure, and of course, in the final inning, the glare from the sun is finally gone, and we're suddenly able to make contact. Maybe we can finally pull ahead, and here is Randy Trout, everybody's favorite man, going yard into right field for what could be the game-sealing home run. 3 hits on opening day for Randy, who was looking primed to have a huge year. Good pitching and 3 home runs have masked a lot of our struggles today, and our rally may not be done as there is the first hit on the season for Paul Arrington, which sends us back to the top of our order where Mason Valenzuela unfortunately flies out. James Getz is trying to earn his first save of the season against the heart of the Red Sox order, and look at him covering the bag for Randy Trout. So now he's looking to earn the last out of the game against the defending Hank Aaron Award winner, who pops out in foul territory, and the Portland Pickles are 1-0. A great game from Matt Waldron and 3 timely home runs helped us keep the lead through the entire game, and now simulating the rest of the series, we were able to earn a huge sweep, including this game where we put up 12 runs on 18 hits. That is what you like to see. I know we're only 3 games in, but I think it's very funny Trout is leading for MVP, but something tells me these numbers are not super sustainable. I totally missed that Randy won a Gold Glove last season, so since Paul Arrington missed out for Rookie of the Year while Matt Waldron didn't win the Cy Young, it is actually Randy Trout who was our first award recipient. We've got a tie game against Washington and loaded bases as Velasquez drives in one, so we've pulled ahead in another late game situation as Paul Arrington pops up into left field, where the runner from third is definitely going to try to test for the sacrifice fly, and with Gavin Sheets, that was not a very good idea. Sheets' very high confidence might have missed us the chance to score even more runs as Chang lifts this into foul territory, given chase by Stone Garrett, who lays out for an amazing play. With the way Chang has played, that might have prevented a base hit, but fear not, Dominic Fletcher comes through, and the Pickles have won another game. That helped us win another series, as we are 1 game ahead of Texas, and our offense continues to look absolutely phenomenal. It really seems like we live for chaos ball, as we have the go-ahead run at first base, but Gavin Sheets obliterates this baseball into right field. Watching it go to the foul pole, will it stay fair? It does not. As he's consistently done as a 6'5" beast, Sheets went balls deep, but even though it wasn't a home run, the Cardinals are throwing. The bases are loaded for Velasquez, who strikes out, but that is only our first out of the inning, and Paul Arrington, who made the great defensive play, comes through for 2 RBIs. We are looking better than ever, especially in these clutch situations, as Gorman makes a great play, but only gets 1 more out, so there's 1 more chance for Dominic Fletcher, who got a curveball right down the middle, and we're going to take advantage of that for 2 more runs. The Pickles are exploding all over this Cardinal offense, as even Madrigal gets in on the action, which was the final run in an absolute blowout. That is another series win in the books, so we are effectively holding off Texas, especially because guys like Dominic Fletcher and Paul Arrington are really starting to heat up. It is time for our first division series of the year against the Astros, and O'Neill just tied it up, so that breaks Cade Horton's shutout, but he's not going to allow any more runs. Here's Randy Trout, who is hitting .352 with 4 home runs on the year, but make that number 5 to give us the lead right back. We're going to be relying on James Getz for the save, but Rodolfo Castro is going to make it a little easier with a pinch hit home run. One of the best lefty mashers on the team comes through, so that takes a ton of pressure off of James, who gets the easy save. Last year got derailed by our division rivals, so it feels very good to come out and sweep the Astros. And looking at our minor league system, there's one guy who I cannot leave down any longer, and that's Joaquin Cabrera, who at AAA is hitting .340 with a .997 OPS. I also think this is the perfect time to move on from Nick Madrigal, who only has 1 year left on his deal, and I think the Philadelphia Phillies are the perfect place to move him to. Since Madrigal has been pretty disappointing, this move is not going to cost cost them very much, and I think a B potential reliever is a pretty fair return for a rental. It is time for the MLB draft, where honestly, our discovery scouts have greatly saved this class, and we do have a generational prospect in this draft in Emery McCarty, and even though the game tries to trick us into thinking he's not generational, he definitely is. However, outside of James Getz, we do not have a quality pure closer, so I'm interested in drafting one of these four guys, with my very favorite option being John Cozart with that high potential range. I would love to get any of these top 6 position players, but I think our most realistic option is gonna have to be Cal Gordon, and even though he'd definitely be a reach, that contact and speed combo is worth it. The other guy that I would love to drop though is Roger Logan, who basically does everything that Gordon does but better, but of course the big fish is McCarty, who we have no chance to get. This pitcher who went number 1 is gonna be super good. I definitely would have taken him if he fell, and there goes Cesar Molina. So it is very interesting. McCarty is still on the board as there goes Whitfield. And then I cannot believe this, Roger Logan's off the board at number 4, but there are 3 picks until we get a generational first baseman, as I cannot believe Toronto's the only team standing in our way, and they took Alex Langston. What a fumble. You have got to be kidding me. A generational first baseman has fallen into our lap. And if you're asking how I know that he's generational, it's because every generational talent has a 5 difference between their vision and discipline. Cal Gordon, you would have been a great Portland Pickle, but of course, I have to go with Emery McCarty. Maybe there's some positional controversy with Trout, but who cares? In the second round, there was a huge run on the closers that I was interested in, but thankfully, looking at our board, John Cozart is still here, so I don't have to settle with Kurt Reddy, whose overall is already higher than his potential. So John Cozart, welcome to the Pickles. With our next selection, my board is in no particular order, so I think I'm just gonna go with the best player available in Jack Macias, I think is how you pronounce it. I have no idea, but I see contact and speed, so I'm gonna go for it. And now looking at our options in round number 3, I'm not really seeing a ton that I like, so I think I'm just gonna go with this guaranteed high potential pitching prospect. Now I have no idea what to do because the next best player on my board is a pitcher and Joey Marrero. And honestly, even though I took the generational guy, I'm running out of time and he's guaranteed to have good potential. We can always trade him for other prospects. I don't really know if I'm happy with that selection, but there's a few good pitchers left on the board. However, I think the best move is to go with Hugh Fodor, a third baseman who doesn't have great contact, but honestly, I really like the upside of an 18-year-old who can hit for power. Let's take a chance on him. That brings me to round 6, where I have 3 guys who I don't really know that much about. Chris Herrera kind of looks like a Walmart Mason Valenzuela. There's no way his potential is going to be that good, and I think the same goes for Cam Rosado. So I think the best move is to end the draft with a pitcher, and between the guys that I have scouted, Robbie Staub is definitely the best option, so I'm pulling the trigger. That is a great value. I really think that draft did wonders for the number 1 farm system in all of baseball, as just scrolling down, there is at least 1 pickle on every single page, especially near the bottom where we have a ton, and to be exact, I see 19 top 100 prospects. We're taking on Seattle coming out of the All-Star break, and we were down 1 at least until Dominic Fletcher batted in the tying run, and now in the 8th inning, Seattle scored 3, and it was all because Dylan Coleman walked 3 guys in a row, so Seattle is able to hold on. That is a very unfortunate way to end that game, and now we're trying to get our revenge, but we're down 2-0 and hit into a double play. So because of how last season went, I am genuinely scared of a second half hangover. We are suddenly in danger of getting shut out by our closest division rivals, and today we have had no answers for Mackenzie Gore as Trout gets way underneath this one, sending it back into left center field, and there is no doubt that it is not getting down. Coming out of the All-Star break, we lost a series to the Mariners, but to be honest, I'm really not worried yet. The deadline passed and we did not make any moves. However, there is something that's even more exciting, and that is viewing a draft class with a potentially generational player. Here is our first look at the best prospect we have ever drafted in Zooey Mama. That is all blue. Let's go. We still have to worry about finishing strong though, and unfortunately, we just gave up a huge home run to Trey Turner. So now we really need a rally because we're down 1 run in the bottom of the 8th inning, and here's Brian De La Cruz hitting a double. As the inning's off to a pretty good start, and even though Valenzuela flies out to deep center field, it's enough to advance De La Cruz to 3rd. Now we're counting on Randy to drive him in, but he got hit in the cheeks, and even though that's a free base, I'm a little nervous because David Fry has a chance to ground into a double play, but thankfully he's gonna score the runner. Now we're really cooking, but here's Paul Arrington with 2 outs who launches a line drive deep into left center field, going back for a 3-run shot that gives us a huge lead. Now here's something interesting. It's James Getz looking to close out Nick Madrigal, looking for his revenge against his former team, and he actually drives in an RBI. That was a classic Nick Madrigal single. And now, of course, the final final out is gonna be Bryce Harper, as the Pickles lost their lead, but their offense exploded and came from behind for a big win. Of course, we're starting off the month in a close game against the Padres, down 1, at least until Randy Trout lined a double down the third baseline. That ties this game up, and now Brian De La Cruz's chopping single up the middle is gonna score Randy Trout. Another day, another Pickles rally, but the Padres answered very fast with an RBI of their own, so it looks like this game's gonna come down to the wire as we're going to the ninth. Thankfully for us, our bullpen did not allow another run, which means we have a chance for a walk-off in front of our home fans, but it's gonna have to wait. By this point, our bullpen is so used to extra innings, but we still have to be careful facing Fernando Tatis, who we throw out. It is time to see Brian Lozano run, and maybe Gavin will be able to drive him in, as that was close. Now it's Cabrera's turn, as the rookie's gonna help out the rookie, sending him all the way home from second base to walk this game off. That is a signature Pickle win to start September, but now closing in on 100 wins, every game counts as Lozano's able to single, but we need some runs because we're down 2 to the Astros, and this will certainly work. Mason Valenzuela into left field. It stays fair for an RBI. The speed of Brian Lozano has helped us out once again, but we definitely need some more help, down 1 run in the 8th, and here's lefty masher Paul Arrington with 1 on, but before he can even swing at anything, Fletcher is getting thrown out. I understand why you wanted to steal in that situation, but in hindsight, it really messed us up, as Trevor Rogers is in to close us out, but not so fast. We get aboard with a single. Cabrera's down to his last strike though, so he needs a meatball, or maybe Rogers can walk him, but instead he got jammed and the Astros are able to win. We tried to pull off a comeback, but the Astros won 3 out of 4 of those games, and I'm definitely a little concerned about us losing series this close to the playoffs, as Brian De La Cruz is gonna drive in a tying run against the Angels. The second half of the season has definitely felt rockier than the first half, but Rodolfo Castro is gonna silence me with a huge 3-run shot. With 13 games to go, we are at 95 wins, but more importantly, we have officially clinched the playoffs. With those things out of the way, I don't think there's anything to do except sim forward into the playoffs, as we finish the season 104-58, which is obviously the best record we've ever had by almost 30 games. Looking at awards, it looks like we're not taking home any of the major ones, but James Getz does win reliever of the year, and then Cade Horton, the guy we picked up on the waiver wire, was in 3rd place for rookie of the year. Bailey Falter won Gold Glove pitcher, but Randy Trout could not repeat his Gold Glove first base, but it's really cool Getz won a new award, and we had another rookie of the year finalist. I think we all knew this season was gonna be a success, but I don't think anyone expected this absolute breakthrough, especially as Randy Trout was our best player, and he's up to a 91 overall. And from the start of the season, when he was an MVP candidate, he really held this team together all the way through, but he also had some help from a trade deadline move last year in Dominic Fletcher, alongside big free agent signing Brian De La Cruz. Then it was 3 other players from his draft class who made key contributions, being Joaquin Cabrera, Mason Valenzuela, and Wally Booker, while our catcher Paul Arrington also quietly enjoyed his best season ever. However, at the heart of this Pickle team was our amazing pitching rotation, led by, of course, Matt Waldron, but Bailey Falter and Cade Horton were also consistently good, while our long reliever Colby Allard also had a great season. The bullpen was basically awesome all season long, and of course, the biggest breakout star on probably the entire team, James Getz, finishing with 53 saves, along with a 2.73 ERA and a 0.98 whip. That is just insane. Plain and simple, this team was entirely led by our first draft class of the series, which went in order: Randy Trout, Mason Valenzuela, Wally Booker. Then we picked up James Getz in the 4th round, before getting Joaquin Cabrera in the 6th. However, it's time for the playoffs, where we're taking on the Angels, and getting a closer look at this team, they've rebuilt really well with Dylan Cease, Tariq Skubal, and scrolling further down, Josh Young. This is our first playoff game in franchise history, and with the Matt Waldron knuckleball at our disposal, I am feeling pretty good about our chances. I'm definitely glad I'm not the only one who can not hit that pitch, but now the big question is whether or not Mike Trout can hit this thing, and I think the answer is a huge yes. Just one swing has put us down 1 run, and I do not know if it's just the nerves of the playoffs, but Matt Waldron is actively falling apart, giving up 3 runs in this inning. I don't know where this team came from, but they are not the Pickles we've seen all this season, because in 3 innings of play, we do not have a single hit against Max Fried. Our all-star Matt Waldron has also completely collapsed, but at least we struck back with 3 runs, as I was honestly ready to cut our losses and move on to the next game, but it looks like there's still a spark of hope. Vaughn Grissom hit the home run, and now he walks, so there's 1 away for Valenzuela, who unfortunately chops it down the 3rd baseline line for an inning-ending double play. Angels scored another run, but I'm not giving up hope as Fried kicked that one like a soccer ball, going up, and he's gonna make the play at first. I know I said I wasn't giving up right before the play, but that completely defied the laws of physics, so we're just gonna accept and try to move on from this first loss. In game number 2, we're starting out with Sixto Sanchez on the mound, but if we want a chance today, we need to get ahead of Tariq Skubal, and at least through the first 3 batters, it is not looking like that's gonna be super easy. Thankfully though, it looks like Sixto is gonna buy us some time, and now Randy Trout is able to launch a double into left field, so I was really hoping that could spark the rest of our offense, but we're not squaring anything up. Lucky for us though, Sixto is buying us time, and has brought us down to our last out where Cabrera singles, which gives Grissom a chance to do something, but that's another ground out. Then Sanchez could not hold on forever, there's a home run, and I'm definitely concerned that our team is falling apart at the worst possible time, because even though we had the best record in baseball, we cannot square up anything. Even with a home run, this has been a good start from Sixto Sanchez, and thankfully Fry going the other way is finally going to return the favor with a tying solo shot. We really needed that, so it's coming at the perfect time, because at least on one swing, we broke through Skubal. Sanchez's ratings are not nearly as good as Tariq's are, but he's keeping us in this game, and now in the 6th inning, Vaughn Grissom hits a double, but of course, the big problem is scoring him as we have 2 outs on the board, so Brian De La Cruz is our last chance, and as you know, he's a lefty's worst nightmare, but not this time. The next team to score could very well win this game, and unfortunately, it's gonna be Los Angeles. So we just need to get out of the inning with the bases loaded. Valenzuela cannot handle it cleanly, and a run scores. That was the worst possible time for an error, but we're definitely not done yet because Chang just dug out a low pitch, sending it deep into center field, where it is able to scale the fence for a home run. Without an error, that would have tied the game, but maybe all we needed was to get Skubal out of the game so we can start feasting on this bullpen. Dominic Fletcher is pinch hitting in the 7th inning, and what a play at short. The throw comes in time, as that great play potentially just cost us another run, but we get Trout out, so at least we're only in a 1-run deficit, but we're definitely not getting any closer to scoring, because sometimes you could have the best timing in the world and still pop up. This is our last chance to score, going up against Alex Lang, and this is certainly a good start from Brian De La Cruz, who delivers a ground rule double, and he would advance to third, where Gavin Sheets dribbles this up the middle to tie the game. That's the perfect time for our offense to come up big, as there's still 1 out, at least until Arrington grounds into a double play. But regardless, I feel pretty good because we're at home and we've lived in extra inning games, but I spoke too soon because that is a 2-run shot to open the 10th. The announcer's jinx strikes again, and now simming forward, they hit another home run. So I don't know how the heck we're gonna put up 3 runs, but Fletcher got us off to a good start. It's definitely an interesting decision to leave their closer in the game in the 10th, and even though they pulled him here, the damage is already done as there's 2 guys aboard and Grissom comes up just short. I was ready to crown him playoff MVP, but instead it will have to be Mason Valenzuela, who is going to clear the bases with this 2 RBI double. That makes Randy Trout the winning run, and there is no way 1 swing, 1 nuke, and 1 Pickles win. I cannot believe we just pulled that off. A walk-off bomb in our first playoff series from the first player we ever drafted, and this is a kid-friendly show, but I have to say, this moment absolutely tickles my pickle. I do not know how the heck we did that, but hey, I cannot complain. That is the most signature win in my channel's history. But now we really have to lock back in because we're up against Dylan Cease, and to make things even worse, he's somehow going up against Devin Smeltzer, who's 76 overall. He's actually holding it down though, and that's the slowest changeup I've ever seen. So there's a very good reason we've struggled to score our first run, but this could be it as Brian De La Cruz smashes it into the right center gap. Valenzuela hits the stop sign at third. Mason would have scored if he was slightly less chunky, but I'm not falling for the circle change. That is going to get us on the board. But De La Cruz is on third base with 2 outs, so I want to send him home, but Gavin Sheets unfortunately lines out. It still feels very good to have a 1-run lead, but that's not going to last long. So this is setting up to be one of the greatest series of baseball ever played. And even though it's 4 o'clock in the morning right now, I am on the edge of my seat as Paul Arrington drives that one all the way to the wall in center field. That is going to score the runner all the way from first. Our offense has done just enough to keep us in this one, as Valenzuela actually gives us one a pretty solid drive going into right field and somehow over the fence for a 2-run home run. He is not known as a home run hitter at all, but Mason came up big here, and ever since Trout hit that home run, the energy has shifted, because at the beginning of the series, we could not hit anything, and now the Angels are facing elimination. If we win, we're going to the ALDS, and Joaquin Cabrera on the first pitch he saw blasted it up the middle, so that is a pretty good start against Patrick Sandoval, as now we have 2 aboard. board, and a great chance to rally to earn the lead, but unfortunately Valenzuela grounds into a double play. Somehow that inning resulted in no runs, which is definitely discouraging, but David Fry of all people is gonna make us forget about it pretty quick with his second bomb of the postseason. This guy sucked during the regular season, so at least he's making his money during the playoffs, as we scored the first 2 runs of the game before Trout got the Angels on the board. But obviously our offense has been way too good to give up, and with runners at the corners, we should not have swung at that, but it still drops in for an RBI. We have recushioned our lead back to 2 runs as De La Cruz goes the other way into right field, going back and hopping over the fence. That puts 2 runners in scoring position for Castro, who scores 1. So unless the Angels pull off something crazy, we're moving on, and I need to stop because what just happened? Bailey Falter gave up 3 runs before Coleman gave up 3 in 1 inning. So in just a snap of a finger and a press of a button, a 3-run lead turned into a 2-run deficit as our bullpen, which has been good all year long, somehow blew it, but David Fry is going to give us at least one more chance. That's his second home run of the game, so it's only a 1-run game against Alex Lang, who blew it last time. We are pinch hitting Dominic Fletcher on the final out, but unfortunately he could not turn on that. So even though I was just talking about going to the ALCS a second ago, we have to play a winner-takes-all Game 5. Even though it really sucks our bullpen blew that game, it definitely balances out the shenanigans of Game 2. And no matter what happens, I think this has been one of the best playoff series ever played, as Cabrera sends this into deep right center and forget about it, a 2-run shot. After playing terribly in his first game, Matt Waldron has only given up 1 single hit in this game, so he's definitely redeeming himself. But the Angels finally scored a run in the 7th inning, so we need to wrap this up. And I'm already getting bad feelings with a man on first base as Alcala gives up a deep drive into left field. Thankfully, it's gonna be caught. With 2 outs, all I'm asking for is that we survive, as this one's lifted into right field. Thank you. We had the best closer in baseball this season, and we need him more than ever, because even one bad pitch against the heart of the order could be devastating. If we lose, we can kiss our amazing season goodbye. But here's the man I'm scared of the most, Mike Trout, who just hits it to Valenzuela. There are 2 outs, but Getz is losing his command, so we need to get this over quick as Young pops up into shallow right field. Sheets coming in, giving chase, and that is going to send us to the ALCS. It is finally over, and what an amazing series. Next up, we're taking on the Yankees, who have 99 Vlad Jr., Aaron Judge, and Jeremy Pena. And I'm definitely nervous because this squad is loaded and Vlad already hit a home run. Sixto Sanchez had a very good start against the Angels, but right now it looks like he's out of gas because he's already given up 2 runs, and with a runner at third base, this sacrifice fly makes it 3. This literally just looks like a batting practice field for Aaron Judge and Vlad Jr. And just to add insult to injury, we're getting shut out by our former ace, Eric Lauer. Not only are we getting shut out, but we also have not gotten a single hit, at least until this Brian Lozano home run, as it's very good to see the rookie making plays. I was hoping that would spark a rally, but it simply never did. And the next game opened with another solo home run, followed by a bomb from Aaron Judge. So while I could show the rest of this game, I think it's very clear what happened. And at the end of the day, this Yankees team is way better than us, but we're gonna do our best for the rest of the series. As Cabrera singles, that's gonna score a run unless De La Cruz stops and decides to go. That was a terrible mistake. This game should be tied up as we keep getting guys on base, as they're loaded up for Mason Valenzuela, who chops it straight to Vlad Jr. Now we just need to prevent him from scoring another run, and that is easier said than done, as that pitch was left right over the plate, and Vlad is gonna take advantage every time. I'm not even kidding, he just hit his 3rd home run of the day. And going to the 7th inning, how about another 2-run bomb? Clearly simulating pitching versus me pressing the buttons makes 0 difference, because the reality is that there's rich teams, then poor teams, then us, and no matter how many waiver wire guys we find value from, they're never gonna be quite as good as that. We are fighting for our life in Game 4 as we're facing elimination in a 0-0 game in the 7th inning, and of course we're relying on Matt Waldron's knuckleball, which is no longer working as well, but thankfully it looks like the runner is gonna test the throw to home plate, and he's thrown out. The Yankees may have Vlad Jr., but we have the knuckleball, but of course he can hit that too, launching it into left field, and that is like 5 home runs in the last 2 games. This man is an animal. The entire season could come down to this, so Chang is swinging for the fences. On the very first pitch he saw, that cuts it to a 1-run game just like that. Why pay $40 million a year to Vlad Jr. when you can get a stud like Chang off the scrap heap for almost nothing? But jokes aside, whether we win or lose, I am very proud of this team because they defied pretty much all expectations. And I think about halfway through this series, it was very clear we were not making a comeback as we watched the Yankees celebrate from the bench. But there's no no doubt this season was groundbreaking for our team and our organization, so there's no reason to doubt that another year of talent development, bringing up a new wave of prospects, and maybe bringing in a couple free agents can't have this team back stronger than ever. I am not bringing back any of these free agents because they're all pretty old and are about to start regressing, and even though I'm sort of interested in bringing back Alcala, our owner does not want to shell out $4.5 million for a reliever. Gavin Sheets is interesting because he's 32 years old, but looking at it now, him and Velasquez are very similar players, with the difference being that Gavin Sheets actually performs consistently, and at $3.7 million, he is really not breaking the bank for 1 year. Even after making it to the ALCS game, we are still not allowed to spend any money on these top players, and our owner's strapping us for cash more than ever because our core is under arbitration. Because of how fast our farm system's improving, there were basically no free agent moves that I could even consider making to complement this team, because even though we can't afford most prospects as it is, adding another player would have blocked somebody like Brian Lozano, for instance, who's projected to get a lot more playing time. That was a very quick offseason of retaining players, but when you're broke and have the success that we've had developing a farm system, there's really no way to improve in free agency. I feel so spoiled because last season we didn't just make the playoffs, but we also drafted a generational talent in Emery McCarty, who fell to 9 overall, and at 18 years old, before he's even played a game, he's already one of our best players. It's opening day, and I know I usually show some spring training, but I felt like it really wasn't necessary since we already know our team, and I'm definitely a bit concerned because our all-star ace Matt Waldron has already given up a run in the first, but because of how good our offense was last year, I am definitely not sweating yet. We definitely can't afford another run though, and there is a 2-run shot, so Waldron's season is off to a very rough start so far, and we still have not gotten a hit, and I don't know if Waldron slacked during the offseason, but he really needs to figure it out. Even his signature knuckleball has not worked so far, but at least he's able to turn a double play here, so at least it's gonna stay 3-0, but we are getting no hit right now, and right now my biggest fear is falling into a slump early on in the year because last season was so successful. Our owner just agreed to invest in a brand new stadium starting next year, but our success this year is definitely gonna depend how good that stadium is, so we really need to produce some runs, and that starts with the heart of our order as Valenzuela grounds into a double play. Regardless, I'm very excited for Pickle Park to get an upgrade, so comment below what you would want to see in a new stadium because I have no idea what I'm gonna do. Our starting rotation was very good last season, and that's one of the reasons we had so much success, and even though it wouldn't be ideal if someone like Matt Waldron fell off a cliff, we have plenty of prospects who could replace them, and after an amazing year from our rotation, we have to expect at least some drop-off. Here is Adrian Morhone, who was one of our only free agent signings, and this dart from Paul Arrington is going to end his scoreless inning. We are still waiting on our first run of the season, which David Fry delivers on cue with an opposite shot into right field, and he's a guy who really fell off last season after being our best player in season number 4, but it would be amazing for our team if he could bounce back. It would be great if we could add some more runs, but our power has simply not woken up yet, so at least Morhone is pitching well, giving us another scoreless inning, as it's the bottom of the 7th where we're still getting good pitches, but we're just popping them up. If anybody can wake us up, it's last year's breakout star Randy Trout, but even he gets underneath this, so in the 9th inning, we only have 2 hits as Gavin Sheets gets under this, giving it a ride into left center field, and he has a lot of power as it keeps going to the wall for a home run. I did not think that one had a chance, and I'm very glad we brought back Sheets on a low budget deal, so we have a chance to make this a more interesting 9th inning as Arrington gets aboard, which means that the winning run is up to bat with 0 outs. This team lived for clutch situations last year, and this closer has blown it, giving up his 4th hit in a row to Chang, and it's a 3-run home run to walk it off on opening day. What a great way to start the season in a very unlikely victory, as we needed 4 runs to walk that one off. That win sparked a huge series as we won 3 of 4, so we are looking to match last year's hot start, but against Boston, we need a walk-off win as we're down 2, but Mason Valenzuela took advantage of a splitter right down the heart of the plate, and in 2 series, the Pickles have 2 walk-offs. We would go on to sweep Detroit, and our next challenge are the 2nd place Rangers. Texas was our worst nightmare from seasons 1 through 4, but obviously everything changed last year, and Matt Waldron's trying to bounce back as Nathaniel Lowe pops it up, going back into right field, except maybe that's not a pop-up, traveling to the fence for a home run. That's a discouraging loss to our rival, but we did rebound with a win, so game 3 will decide a very important early series. It's very annoying how slow Trevor Rogers' slider is, but we get a hit here, and at least for me, this lighting makes it impossible to see, so I'm glad Castro checks, but then he strikes out. We're relying on Mason Valenzuela with 2 outs. I literally can't see. I shouldn't have swung at that, but it's gonna get down anyways, and that will somehow score a miracle run. This is the guy I want in this situation situation every time. And down to his last strike, he's trying to win us the series, but maybe that's not gonna happen. Jonah Heim sends this into right field. That is not coming back. That is very unfortunate, but now even against a lefty, Dominic Fletcher is going to deliver in the clutch as he always does. So after some drama, the Pickles survive. We are running the gauntlet against teams in our division, and down 2 in the 9th, Cabrera got railed to take a free base, so Randy Trout is the last out of this game, but facing a full count, Bautista walked him. That can make Sheets the winning run, but once again, we're facing 2 strikes, and this time we cannot pull back the check swing and lost the first game of this series to Houston, but thankfully we got our revenge, winning the next 2 games. Now we're facing Seattle to start June, and this is a very important game because they already won the first of the series, so we can't afford a series loss with the Rangers breathing down our neck. Brian Wu just threw one of the most beautiful changeups I've ever seen and is making adding another run very difficult, but have no fear, Brian De La Cruz is here going deep to center field. I am very glad that gave us more breathing room because as always, Dylan Coleman is causing problems, and honestly at this point, I'm just gonna move him out of the setup role because he definitely causes us a lot of problems. I thought he could get out of this inning, but apparently not because Gabriel Moreno just went deep again. Then I sim one play and it's another bomb, so after leading by 2 runs, we need a 2-run rally. This is honestly so absurd to me because our bullpen has been so good the past couple years, and for whatever reason, it feels like we've been in a slump as Texas is 3 games back from us. I'm already thinking about what moves to make at the deadline because just as a refresher, we won 100 games last season, and on paper, we should be even better this year. We lost another series to Seattle, so suddenly Texas is right on our tail. I think the slow start for Randy Trout definitely has a lot to do with that, but the rest of our team should be able to make up for it. So if there's one reason we're struggling more than usual, I definitely think it's our pitching because look at these ERAs, Dylan Coleman and Adrian Morjon are not working out. I was gonna wait until the All-Star break to make a move, but this is definitely a dire and very unique situation, and there is one player from a rebuilding team that really catches my eye who would definitely change our offense, and that is Yanquiel Fernandez on the Colorado Rockies. As far as the ratings go, he is basically Gavin Sheets if he could also play defense, and with the state of our farm system, I am willing to give up quite a bit to get him, starting with an A potential first baseman in Jacob Wilson. Then I'm also going to give them an A potential first baseman in Jensen Spence before throwing in an outfielder with starting experience in Dominic Canzone. This is a lot to give up, but I feel like a player like Fernandez is worth it, especially because after this year, he has 3 years of arbitration left. I really hope the trade for Yanquiel Fernandez can spark our offense because after the Angels tied it, we're definitely going to need it, and he's going to immediately have a chance to make an impact for us, but unfortunately, he keeps it on the ground. Regardless, he has 2 hits in his Pickle debut, and after Fry walked, Arrington's trying to keep the inning alive in a tie game, going the other way, but it's not going to be deep enough. We seem destined for extra innings against a Los Angeles team that is not great this year, but first we need Jose Suarez to get us there, and look who's batting. Many of you were not happy that I traded Nick Madrigal last year, but it was clearly time to move on. But now a year later, it would be very embarrassing if he walked it off against us, and that was not going to happen. That is the first out of the inning, but now here's a Nick Madrigal style blooper on the next at bat that's going to get down in left field for at least a single, but he's trying to stretch it. That's going to be a double. Suarez is in a tough spot against his former team, and even though he just has one more out, here is Mike Trout. At age 37, he is no longer the highest rated Trout in baseball, but that does not make me less scared of him, as he is now faced with a full count and swings through a fastball. We beat the Angels in the ALDS last season, and I guess we broke them last season because they're 24 games back in the division, but here is a double play. We would go on to lose that game, and obviously that really sucks, especially because they are going to sweep us. I do not know what has happened to the Pickles, but we need to figure it out, especially because this is probably the last year we're gonna have Dominic Fletcher and Brian De La Cruz. The guy who's really surprising everybody this season is Paul Arrington, who's now up to an 82 overall, but then 4 out of our top 5 OPS guys are all hitting free agency this season. Mason Valenzuela and Joaquin Cabrera are very similar players, putting up very similar stat lines, and I'm definitely glad we made the move for Yanquiel Fernandez with the current situation in our outfield. Our rotation has been above average this season, but it's nothing compared to what it was last year, and in the bullpen, we're really still waiting for these 2 guys to turn it around. This is our last game before the MLB draft, and with 2 guys on in the 8th inning, we are not able to take the lead, so it looks like we're definitely going into the All-Star break on a huge cold streak, unless we can magically come up with one of our classic pickle rallies as Yanquiel goes the other way, giving it a ride, and even though it feels like we're late on everything, he has the power to send that over the fence. That trade acquisition is already paying off for us, and now the rally might not be over, as there are no outs and Arrington draws a walk, which gives Cabrera a huge RBI RBI opportunity, and even though he hits this one well, he is not a power guy. That is the first out, but at least it advanced a runner to third as Chang unfortunately grounds into a double play. But now Getz is in the game, who's looking to make his second straight All-Star appearance, as Fry is gonna barehand this bunt and throw him out. Getting this win would put us one game behind Texas, as Trey Turner could be the final out, and facing a full count, we jammed him inside, forcing the pop-up to center field. Charging in, Fernandez is able to make the play, as that was a signature Pickle win. In last year's draft, a generational first baseman fell into our lap, and he's improved a ton this season, even though he started out a bit slow in Double-A. But we also took some other top prospects in that class, like Robbie Staub, John Cozart, and then of course going all the way to the 5th round, Hugo Fodor at third base. That was honestly one of the best drafts I've ever had in MLB The Show, and I honestly don't know if this one's gonna be able to compete with it, but we're certainly gonna give it our best shot. This year, there could be another generational prospect in Jason Yoshida, but this time we're picking at 29, so it's a little different. So for the first time of the series, my number one target is gonna be a pitcher. If Garcia's not there, there's a few more options, and we're gonna need them because my top 3 position players are already off the board, and thankfully, simulating to our pick, Garcia is available, so he is my easy selection. But our next one is coming up, and I have no idea what I'm gonna do. I was planning on taking Max Naylor there, but he went right after, so once again, we're probably gonna go best player available. I know we just drafted a closer last year, but I discovered Gregory Baca late, and he looks very good, so it's either gonna be him or a reach for one of these project position players, and I don't think that's a good idea, so let's just go for the great value pick in Gregory Baca. Now we have a very long wait until our next selection, and there's a few players that went off that I was interested in, like Dexter Palma, but overall, a good amount of our board is still intact, so I think my best move is to take another starting pitcher, and I'm just gonna stay true to my board. A guy I discovered very late, Oren Rouse, who has great contact skills, went right in front of us, so even though he was gonna be my selection here, I have to go with my backup option in a high potential but very raw prospect in Jesse Albus. He is so raw that we just got Gordon Ramsay's attention, and now in the 4th round, I could go Kyler Lindstrom, but I don't know that much about him, and he's also pretty raw, so I think I'm gonna go for a guy that I do know something about and has a pretty solid potential range. You can never have too many high potential infielders, so here's another one, and in round number 6, there's only one player left on my board, and that is a pitcher in Tyrell Musser, so he's the final selection of our season 6 draft. At the break, we have caught up to the Rangers, and looking at all-star voting, Matt Waldron did not make it a 3rd year in a row, but on the other hand, James Getz did repeat as the AL starter, but aside from that, I am not seeing anybody until we get to third base, where Joaquin Cabrera is a first-timer. He is in the all-star game before Mason Valenzuela, who has been at the show for way longer, and maybe it doesn't count too much because we traded for him late, but Yanquiel Fernandez is also here. Now I'm gonna do something that I wasn't sure I was gonna do coming into this recording session, but obviously Emery McCarty is way too good to be left in the minors, so we are adding him to the 40-man roster and moving him straight from Double-A to the MLB. At this point in his career, he's probably just a DH, but hopefully to everybody's relief, he is going to make David Fry a bench player, and that was at least the plan, but after looking at it, I need to cut my roster down to 26 again, so I found a prospective playoff team looking for a third baseman. My mission to improve our bullpen keeps going with David Yu, but that's not a lot, so they're gonna throw in this B potential catcher, and David Fry is a Minnesota Twin. Coming out of the break, we are player locking the debut of Emery McCarty, and even though we're down 5-2, it would be great to see his first hit, as he's worked this count, and that is a pitch to hit that he unfortunately pops up. He is coming all the way up from Double-A, so it might take him a while to adjust to the speed of the game, as he was unable to reach base, and this was not a good game for us. We really need revenge if we want to stay in front of the Rangers, and backup catcher Wally Booker lifts us into left field, but unfortunately, we're gonna leave the bases loaded, so that was obviously not the result we were hoping for, as we went 1-2-3 in the 7th, and apparently after the playoff loss, we're the only team that LA cares about beating because they have not won many other games. Mason Valenzuela just doubled, and here is the Angels' worst nightmare, Randy Trout, to score the go-ahead run, which brings up Emery McCarty, who finally gets his first hit on camera. That is hopefully the most of many for McCarty, who is a generational talent, as Brian De La Cruz shows off his warning track power, but of course, that was only the first out of the inning, but Fernandez needs to do better than that, so it is all up to Wally Booker to not strand these runners, but he does exactly that. Now Tom Cosgrove is gonna retire the side, but once again, in the bottom of the 8th, we are not going to add any insurance runs, which definitely puts a lot more pressure on James Getz, who forces soft contact. It is so funny that Nick Madrigal joined the team we beat in the playoffs, but now the joke's on him because he's the last out of this game, and Getz got him with the low curveball. The Angels have been so annoying this season, so it feels great to get a good win, and approaching August, I can can finally look into contract extensions for some of our best players, but as you can see, this one's not going to happen. But what about Brian De La Cruz, who has been such a key free agent signing, and that is also going to be too much. Obviously, this rebuild would look so different if we didn't have any financial restrictions, but at least for me, I've had a ton of fun creating storylines out of it, and it's really made our climb to the top very rewarding. We are neck and neck with Texas, as we both have 69 wins, but if that wasn't cool enough, we get to see our draft class for the very first time. This has been my favorite part of every single season so far, so let's open it up and see what we got, as there is a lot of blue. Obviously, it is not as good as last year's class, but nothing is ever going to come close to that ever again. But given the rest of the options we have, I think we made a very good choice with Jose Garcia, and our second pick, Gregory Baca, also looks like he could help us out in the bullpen pretty early on. We doubled up on pitcher, although Spencer is a little further out, and then there's Jesse Albus, who is exactly what we thought he was, a raw project player. Unfortunately, I would have preferred the player that got selected right in front of him, and by the way, Jason Yoshida, who went number 2, is generational. Our first game of August is against the Dodgers, as we're down 2-0, but not for long because of a solo shot from Castro. This guy has been an incredible signing for us, because after a couple years struggling as a platoon bat, he put it all together and became a lefty's worst nightmare. Since we're tied with the Rangers, every win matters for the rest of the season, and because it's a close race, it feels like we're having a way worse season than we are, but in reality, we'd be winning any other division that we were in, as Fernandez gives us a ride into right field, and it is over the fence to tie the game. I am really liking this trade acquisition so far, as we needed a player like him, as suddenly we have a walk-off opportunity, and after McCarty looked at strike 3, Paul Arrington is going to hit it straight to Mookie Betts. It appears we were bound for extra innings, especially as Cabrera pops up behind the catcher, but the Dodgers would score to start the 10th, so we need something, and this is grounded out, but the error saves us. We have 2 runners in scoring position, and Mason Valenzuela, on the first pitch he saw, hit it back up the middle, which will score not one, but both runs for a huge walk-off win to start the month. That error literally made that happen, and honestly, it was about time something good went our way, because lately, it's definitely been a struggle. It is about time we got on a roll with 7 straight wins to start the month, and I want to see how far this win streak can go, as we're trailing by 1 run to the Blue Jays, where Dominic Fletcher lines this into right field, going all the way back and over the right fielder's head to load the bases. I have no idea how that didn't score a run, but have no fear, Fernandez is here, going to right field, and get out the rye bread and the mustard, Grandma. It is grand salami time. He got everything on that one, and Fernandez so far has come up in so many big moments, and he helped us get a huge win against the Blue Jays. The win streak continued for 12 games until we lost to the Mets, but now entering September, this is the series that really matters. This is the first time we've taken on Texas in a very long time, and obviously there is a ton at stake in our division, and we were down 1 run at least until they hit a 3-run bomb. After that, they did not take their foot off the gas, so now our lead in the division is only 2 games. Once again, in game 2, we have a very close game, so I'm really hoping history doesn't repeat itself, because the Rangers did what we usually do, surging in late game situations, and there's a pickoff. We did not even have a chance to score that runner because of the pickoff, but now Fernandez doubles in the 9th, which sets up a big opportunity for Emery McCarty. He definitely found a bit of a stride during that win streak, so now we need him to show us what he can do, launching this one into left field. There is no way to the foul pole. It's not gonna stay fair. I thought he had that one, but he was a bit early, so there is one away from Paul Arrington, who lifts this into center field, and I can already tell it is not far enough. I would have gone crazy if Emery McCarty gave us the lead on a deep home run, but instead we have lost the series to Texas, and on the bright side, at least it is not a sweep. It is so funny that 2 AL West teams have the best records in all of baseball, and it's not even close, but to give us a better chance to win this race, I cannot wait any longer. We are bringing up Juan Espinosa. The first round pick from a couple years ago has really improved his game, and I think Chang has been great, but Espinosa just has way better offensive potential. Sure enough, in this game against the Astros, Juan Espinosa hit 3 doubles, and suddenly we are looking on pace to match our win record from last year, but of course, the New York Yankees are in our way. We have a 1-run lead facing Aaron Judge, and that curveball was not supposed to be left over the plate, so this team really continues to cause me problems, but thankfully, they gave me a great pitch right back. I am going to enjoy Brian De La Cruz while I have him, but I'm so glad that we brought in Fernandez to fill his spot when he's gone, because after this year, he has 3 years before free agency, and I'm honestly a bit curious how that playoff series could have gone if we had all the talent we have now, as this will drop in to score Fernandez. This game is basically therapy right before the playoffs, and here's the man that has put many Portland Pickles in a psych ward, Vlad Jr. James Getz is taking all of his anger out on this team right now, as there's a chopper to third base, and the flip over to second secures us a big win. It's obviously not big in the sense that we dominated, but we did get to 103 wins, which is one away from our record last season. One more win against the Yankees could tie it, and there it is, as we finished out the year 107-55. On paper, I definitely think our offense needed a star like Fernandez, who hit 36 home runs and 120 RBIs, while to my surprise, catcher Paul Arrington enjoyed a breakout year, while guys like Brian De La Cruz, Mason Valenzuela, Randy Trout, and Dominic Fletcher all performed as per usual. Looking at awards, Fernandez was in third place for MVP, while Ernest Crespo, the rookie who got called up later in the season, was in second for Cy Young, and you already know that meant he won Rookie of the Year. What a dominant season for the rookie pitcher who got up to 85 overall, and with these stats, it is no wonder. But speaking of pitchers, James Getz somehow just got even better with 58 saves instead of 53, and he also had an ERA under 2 that is just ridiculous. Crespo, along with the September call-up of Alex Nathan, really saved this pitching rotation because it was not that great this season, which in hindsight is a very funny thing to say because we were in second for team ERA, but that's also weighted by guys like Mason Engelhart, Tom Cosgrove, and of course the one and only James Getz. We built a very complete team that was first in batting average, second in runs, and even though home runs used to be our worst stat, it is now 6th with the addition of Fernandez. We also had the 4th fewest strikeouts in the league, and really for me, if there's one thing to take away from this series so far, it is that overall ratings really do not matter as much as you think. Looking forward to the playoffs though, I just found out we cannot put Juan Espinosa on the playoff roster because I called him up too late, and honestly I had no idea that rule existed until now, but we could really use him because the 19-year-old hit 403. Of course we're starting the playoffs with the hardest possible matchup, and I definitely had a feeling we'd play them at some point, but I didn't realize it was going to be in the ALDS. We are tied up in game 1, at least until Jonah Heim drives a bases clearing double into the right center gap, so very similar to last year, I already have a pit in my stomach. We did not just win 107 games to get bounced in the very first round, so it's time for us to lock in and rally back. Dominic Fletcher, that's not a good start. We're getting the right pitches, but we're not capitalizing, so thank you Valenzuela, as he's aboard for the big slugger Fernandez. He's in the playoffs after starting the season on a dumpster fire in Colorado that hit him in the toes. He's racing for first, but is not able to beat it. That was a huge missed opportunity, and now their offense is going crazy, so we still have never won the first game of a playoff series. I am really hoping that game 2 can be different as we're down 1 in the 8th inning, but Emery McCarty is gonna launch this into the left center gap for a game-tying double. I'm really glad the rookie's here, but I feel bad for Juan Espinosa because he's probably watching this game from his couch at home, and a shortstop with power would have been a really nice contributor, and everybody, welcome back Playoff Randy. This man single-handedly sent us to the ALCS last year, and fun fact, this is his second ALDS game 2 in a row with a huge home run, as the Pickles came from behind to even the series. This game 3 is so important as we're down 1-0, and here is a double play, so suddenly we're behind by 3 runs and desperately need a spark. But there's 2 outs for Dominic Fletcher, who is at least able to gap a double into left center. If Mason Valenzuela can get aboard, there would be 2 on for Fernandez, but unfortunately, this is a deep fly out, and that's unfortunate because not only did Texas score 2 more runs, but Fernandez ended up going yard. It is so unfortunate that's just a solo shot because that barely chips into the Rangers' massive lead, as here is another double, and I guess we're not out of it just yet because Randy Trout swung on the first pitch he saw, and that is going to score another. Just like the Angels game last season, we are battling, and just a side note, I have no idea how that last pitch did not hit Paul Arrington, but maybe it works out for the best as he gets underneath this one, sending it deep where it's caught. I am begging for our bullpen to survive just 1 inning without giving up a single run, and that's just not going to happen apparently. Another 2-out bomb, and obviously if this game was close, I would definitely play the pitching, but it looks like simming has the same effect because despite all the changes we've made to our bullpen, this Texas offense is simply too much for us. Some days your pitching just gives up 7 runs, and on offense, no matter how hard you hit the ball, it comes up short every time. So we're down to our last at bat as Randy Trout gets underneath this one, and we are officially facing elimination. All I'm going to be able to think about if we lose this next game is how we made a huge move for Dominic Fletcher and Brian De La Cruz just to come up short of our goal, especially because we had the best record in the majors 2 seasons in a row. Crespo had been dominant all game long, but suddenly with the game on the line, he is choking this lead. And just a reminder, my pitching basically requires no user input at all. I just aim it where it tells me to and click the pitch they want, and that just makes players' ratings matter more than my own skill. We just led 1 1-0, but now we have 3 innings to score 3 runs, so we have to be patient and take our pitches, and then we can let our big sluggers like Randy Trout send them home, except he is way underneath this pitch. The Rangers are currently beating us at what we do best, and that's scoring runs in late game situations. And down 4 runs, we could very well be playing our last innings of the season, which also mean Dominic Fletcher's last time in a Pickles uniform, because our owner is never gonna extend him, because obviously a good owner invests in a stadium for their fans to watch a team that they don't spend any money on. However, we are not quitting just yet, because that was our second run of the inning, and now Fernandez is up, but you've got to be kidding me. That pitch came straight down the pipe, and he obliterated it. We have tied this game back up from down 4 runs, so grab your popcorn, because this one is far from over, as we have a man on first for Randy Trout, who sprays this into left for a single. This team plays with so much heart, but unfortunately Paul Arrington is just late on that pitch, and it's a fly out to right that strands runners. Now we really need our bullpen to lock in, and so far Tom Cosgrove is dealing, as there are 2 strikes to Garrett and make it 2 outs. However, we have to be very careful with Corey Seager at the plate, as we left a fastball on the edge, but he's able to reach for it and somehow drive this deep into left field for a home run. I cannot believe that just happened, as Cosgrove put it right on his barrel. So now, after tying the game just half an inning ago with 4 runs, we are playing from behind in the 9th, all because Corey Seager hit the most fake looking home run ever. I cannot believe that we are now 1 out away from elimination, and I am leaving it all up to Vaughn Grissom. He is one of our most consistent hitters of lefties, so I'm pinch hitting him, but we have to be careful because Trevor Rogers throws a very weird changeup, but we're not even gonna need it, making contact to center field where it's run down, and for the second year in a row, the team with the best record in Major League Baseball has been eliminated. I am disgusted that we had to go through another season just to see pretty much the same result as the Yankees series last year, but it's especially unfortunate because I really thought we built something special that could go all the way this season, as we made the biggest blockbuster trade of the entire series, grabbing a player who placed 3rd for MVP voting, while our rookie pitcher Ernest Crespo was a Cy Young finalist. The Rangers did win the World Series, so we lost to the best, but I'm not even ready to find positives because we're losing 3 of our best offensive players. Because we lost De La Cruz and Fletcher, our outfield situation is not good, but I think I found a reasonable player to trade for on the rebuilding Angels in 29-year-old Andy Pages. This is not going to be cheap, as we're giving away a homegrown pitcher along with a fan favorite in Chang, but to fix this terrible situation, I think it's very worth it. Also, since we have a huge logjam of starting pitchers, I'm trading Tyler Phillips, who may be 32 years old, but I think he still has some upside, so him and a B potential third base prospect will gain us an inconsistent but electric reliever in Blair Harrison. We are taking on Baltimore at home on opening day, and if you notice, this is actually the debut of our brand new stadium. With our skyrocketing popularity, our owner decided to finally invest in a brand new park, and even though the stadium itself's a bit basic, I will definitely take the upgrade. I would have loved to include features like a giant pickle slide, but to be completely honest with you guys, I have no idea what's even possible in the stadium creator as Jackson Holiday goes yard to center field. Early on, the Orioles are trying to ruin the grand opening of Pickle Park, and this is definitely concerning because so far Ernest Crespo does not look like an ace, but McCarty just came so close to another home run. At least Randy Trout just walked though, so we have 2 aboard with 1 out, as here's an early opportunity for Arrington to drive in an RBI, but that's not gonna happen, so it is all up to the new guy, Andy Pages. He is a guy that does better against righties, but unfortunately that's not gonna apply this time as he flies out, so it is still 2-0 in the 3rd. Thankfully though, one of our fastest players, Brian Lozano's on first base as Mason Valenzuela drives this into the gap, and that is gonna easily score him from first. We have cut their lead to 1 run with another in scoring position, so I'm hoping McCarty can redeem himself because he almost hit a home run in his first at bat of the day, but unfortunately this is popped up. That is unfortunate, but at least we scored a run. However, Baltimore follows up with another, so Crespo is really not giving us a chance here, but Juan Espinosa just watched this beauty go in a straightaway center for our first home run at the brand new Pickle Park. Espinosa homered twice in our first spring training game, and now he looks primed for a big regular season. That's the type of play that can completely change a game, but now there's 2 outs as we're trying to get a rally going, but unfortunately it's not gonna happen. Crespo is not looking like a Cy Young finalist, but there's still no reason to overreact because it's the first game and he's only given up 3 runs. A 1-run deficit should be nothing for this offense, and we already have a man on board as Valenzuela took a back shot, so we need Fernandez to come up big as he's faced with a full count but got the cutter right down the middle that he sends the other way for a go-ahead shot. There have already been so many dingers in this video, so if you are enjoying another Pickles episode, episode, please drop a like and subscribe. Even with Crespo giving up 3 runs, we have found a way to come back and take the lead, as McCarty's third at bat of the day goes the other way and is gonna drop. That gives our other first baseman an RBI chance, and I really hope this is a big year for Randy, who nearly batted in 100 runs last season, as he's faced with a 2-1 count, and he is gonna sneak this one through the infield, but unfortunately, McCarty is very slow. Juan Espinosa's batting stance makes him look drunk, and obviously he's not, because he already homered in this game, and he's gonna add another run. Now it feels like we have all the momentum, but for an offense as good as Baltimore's, a 2-run lead is nothing, so we cannot afford to take our foot off the gas as we go scoreless in the 6th. I'm very glad that Ernest Crespo was able to go 7 innings as he ends his day with a double play, but we gave up a run immediately after pulling him, and now Arrington hits it right to the pitcher. I really don't like that this is a 1-run game, but at least we have the best closer in baseball, and honestly at this point, calling James Getz the best is not just pickle bias, because he's won back-to-back reliever of the years. I know he doesn't throw gas, but who cares? Because he has one of the nastiest curveballs I have ever seen. All he needs is one more out, but Jackson Holliday has already gone yard today, and this one is driven into right field and over the fence. You've got to be kidding me. That is a rare James Getz mistake right after I compliment him, so there's a chance we might be going to extras. However, the top of our lineup will have a walk-off chance, and that is not a good start from Cabrera, so it is all up to Yanquiel Fernandez. He is definitely the best guy to be in this position as he sneaks this through the infield. So here's a big walk-off chance for 20-year-old Emery McCarty, who gets a great piece of it, going back to center field where it is caught. Thankfully though, Getz is going to cook in the 10th, but for those of you who have watched this series the full way through, you know how fitting it is that we're in extras. Any one of these players can end the game in one swing, but why not have it be Juan Espinosa, who has already come up big twice today, and make it a 3rd time, as that is his 2nd home run, and on opening day, the Pickles have won a walk-off thriller. Espinosa is still a rookie, which makes it so impressive that he just hit 2 bombs, and after that win, we went on to sweep the series. We could take our first loss of the series to Chicago though, but Brendan Beck got out of that jam in the 9th, so we're very lucky to still be tied. So we have a walk-off chance in the bottom of the 9th, but Juan Espinosa grounds out, which could make Brian Lozano our last play of regulation. That is a tough play at short, as Montgomery flips off his back foot, but it is offline. We don't even need a pinch runner because Lozano has 82 speed, but unfortunately we fly out. So we're going to extras facing Kyle Tucker, who's on the White Sox. This is definitely very scary, especially with a runner on second, but this blooper is not going to drop. So thankfully the first out is on the board as this dribbler goes up the middle, and it's actually gonna work. There is no doubt in my mind that Beck should have made that play, and now Matt Higgins has runners at the corners. If you remember, we actually traded Higgins to acquire Dominic Fletcher, but in 2 full years with Chicago, he is not really impressed. It would be very embarrassing if we lost this game because of Matt Higgins, but thankfully he pops up. So now the heart of our order has a walk-off chance. We have seen Mason Valenzuela come up big in many of these situations, and while this is not very flashy, it is a blooper into right field that is gonna drop and score the winning run. The Pickles stay 5-0 in walk-off fashion, and now against Cincinnati, we have the bases loaded up by 1. Emery McCarty has had a very slow start to his year, so it's now or never for the future superstar, as we're in danger of stranding 3 runners on base, and unfortunately we do exactly that. This has been a good start for Cade Horton, but unfortunately he is falling apart in the 7th inning, giving up the tying run. Meanwhile though, Juan Espinosa channels his inner Nick Madrigal with a blooper, and that should have been a double play, but the throw goes off the bag. That feels like such a cheap way to score the go-ahead run, but I'll definitely take it, as what is this first baseman's problem? Pete Alonso could be his last out, so for his team's sake, he needs to redeem himself, and what on earth was that? That was a Javi Baez chase, and we win the game. I'll be the first to admit, we have not looked like an undefeated team, as 6 of our victories have been decided by 1 run, with the other 2 being decided by 2. But if you've watched this team for the entire series, you know we thrive best in these close situations. One downside of being good though is that we're now picking at number 26, so in a way I kind of have to adapt how I approach scouting. Our first division series of the year is against the last place Mariners, and even though they've been bad this season, we're tied up 1-1 in the 8th, but with 0 outs, we have Lozano on base, and now Cabrera smokes this into right field. That is going to score the go-ahead run. We are 25-5 at the end of April, and looking at our offense, I am not surprised, as Yanquiel Fernandez has really turned it around, while new addition Andy Pages is also providing a positive spark, and even though our 2 first basemen have not been great so far, Emery McCarty's finally on a hot streak. Our homegrown pitchers Alex Nathan and Ernest Crespo are leading our rotation, and while it's too early to tell how good our bullpen's gonna be, Jose Suarez has certainly impressed. It feels like we've won every close game we've been in, but our bullpen cannot bail us out forever, especially against the team that knocked us out of the playoffs. But there's 2 on board for Yanquiel Fernandez, and this man is so clutch, going yard for the second time today. What a game against Texas, who tried to get back in this game, but we slammed the door on them to get a revenge from last season. If we do make the World Series, though, the Atlanta Braves are one team that we could take on, so this is a very important game. And right now, we're down 1 run, but Yonkil Fernandez hits this more than deep enough for a sacrifice fly, or at least I thought so, as the throw comes in, and Cabrera is gonna be out. We just continue to strand guys in scoring position, and I wish I could say I'm not used to this, but I am a Mariners fan in real life, so if you know anything about that team, you probably know that we call ourselves the Seattle Stranders. Another runner got left on base, and now Acuna makes us pay. So unfortunately, we took a tough series loss to Atlanta, and maybe the most frustrating part of that is it came right after a 14-5 victory. We have all the talent to be the best offense in baseball, but several key pieces are just not clicking right now. Right now, we are wasting what is hands down the best rotation in all of baseball, because even though we're 73-25 at the break, we have all seen this story before, and honestly, it might have made sense in previous seasons, but this squad is way too overpowered to get eliminated in the playoffs. I told you guys at the beginning of the video I would look for some trades that make sense, and I think I might have found one for a struggling Drew Jones. Arizona's looking to make a playoff push, but they're lacking a catcher to do it, and even though he's been struggling this season, Paul Arrington's coming off of a solid 2029, so I think he might just need a change of scenery at 23 years old. So we're gonna package him along with a potential first base prospect and a pretty solid shortstop to get Drew Jones. We desperately needed another player with speed, and I still think we can get something out of Jones, but of course, now we have a big hole at catcher. Thankfully though, I might have found a solution for a player buried on the Dodgers, as in limited time, 28-year-old Dalton Rushing is having the best season of his career, so in return, I'm trading them Victor Scott, who's kinda useless after the Drew Jones trade, alongside a very high potential starting pitcher. In 2 trades, we not only upgraded our catcher, but we also got a very defensive, high-ceiling outfielder who can come off the bench. I just now realized that if we win 116 games and a World Series, there is no doubt that we are a dynasty, because if we can accomplish this, we would do so almost entirely with homegrown talent, and there's no doubt there's more World Series in their future. Here's the debut of Pablo Cedeno, who collects a strikeout, and it's honestly very impressive that we're so loaded at pitcher that an 81 overall is in the bullpen, but so far, Pablo has shown some great stuff. We're still trailing by 1 run though, at least until Emery McCarty blasts this one into left field, so we're looking for another comeback walk-off win as this is driven to right field, but Lozano does not get enough on it. Luckily for us though, Pablo Cedeno is still cooking, so we have a chance to make this a very quick extra inning game, especially as Cabrera is going to advance, which perfectly sets up a chance for Valenzuela to end it, and he squares this up to do exactly that. Usually I'd take a little bit longer to grind out the regular season, but honestly, we don't have much else to prove, as my focus is 100% set on the playoffs, as the Yankees and the Rangers, who both beat us, are looking to become wildcard teams. We can earn number 116 against Texas, and there it is. So another would break Seattle's record, but we're down by 1. And here is rookie September call-up Chris Bush. He is only 78 overall, but he really hits for great contact, so I want to leave him in to see what he can do, and unfortunately, he grounds into a bases-loaded double play. I guess today we're starting a ton of guys on our bench, trying to give our starters a break as Drew Jones lifts this into center field where it's caught, and then of course, right after that, the Rangers extended their lead. Losing a series to Texas right before the playoffs would not be ideal considering what happened last year, but we do shut them out, and with that, we're officially the best regular season team of all time. We finished off with 119 wins, and that almost guarantees we're gonna have some award winners, as Spencer Jones became MVP, just not with the Yankees. However, looking at the Cy Young, we had 2 finalists, including the winner, Ernest Crespo, who is only 22 years old and is already 90 overall, and has already posted 2 amazing years in a row. However, big shout out to the rookie Alex Nathan for placing 3rd, and honestly, on paper, he put up a better ERA and whip than Crespo. We also had 2 finalists for the batting title, including the winner, Joaquin Cabrera. While James Getz has 3-peated as reliever of the year, we knew the rookie of the year was gonna be on our team, but throughout the season, I really thought it was gonna be Juan Espinosa, but you really can't deny Alex Nathan, especially because he was a Cy Young finalist. The first thing I need to point out looking at these stats is that Mason Valenzuela had a ridiculous season, especially because he is definitely not a power guy, but still managed to put together 30 bombs and 100 RBIs. That RBI total led the team, and he was tied for 2nd with 3 other players for home runs. But honestly, the most encouraging thing is that aside from Drew Jones, who we knew was kind of just going to be a pinch runner, there was really no true weakness on this team, and everybody came in pretty above average by the end of the year. As far as the playoffs go though, we got very lucky because Texas did not not make it. However, the other team that beat us in the playoffs did, as 37-year-old Aaron Judge is trying to win a World Series. Unfortunately, right off the bat, our Cy Young winner is struggling, so I'm already getting deja vu from 2 seasons ago, especially because we're up against Bobby Miller, who throws absolute gas, Yankees singles, but it's not gonna score a run. I am definitely concerned because we leave the bases open all the time, but thankfully Trout hits us well enough for a sac fly, so at least we've cut into the Yankees lead, but McCarty is not able to do more damage. After that, this became a pitcher's duel, but the Yankees finally struck back, and so far we only have 2 hits against Bobby Miller, and that is not going to change easily. He could easily pitch a complete game, but Espinosa is going to drive a double into the gap in left center, so they finally pulled him in favor of former Pickle Tom Cosgrove. It would be awesome to turn the game around against our former pitcher, but unfortunately, Cabrera is going to fly out, and we lost in embarrassing fashion. Game 1 left a very bad pit in my stomach, so it's time for redemption. As Lozano goes deep into right center, they cannot get it, so we're starting the game with 2 guys in scoring position, but as we're way too used to seeing with this team, we are going to strand both of them on base. Now the Yankees have a chance to capitalize, but so far, Waldron is holding up much better than Ernest Crespo, so we've been given another chance to rally, but there is the easiest double play I've ever seen. We have already been robbed of runs today, and now we're hitting it right at their defenders, so if I didn't know any better, I would guess the Pickles all bet against themselves in this game. Winning a sports bet is not worth the pain and suffering of their fans, but we do have a man on first base after a hit by pitch, and you've got to be kidding me, Vlad Jr. just made a crazy play. Thankfully for us, Waldron is pitching a gem, and to be more specific, he has a no-hitter going through 6. That is pretty impressive for a 77 overall regressing 33-year-old, but obviously none of that's going to matter if we cannot score a single run off of Matt Manning. I will have no words if we don't win this game because it's clear we're just cursed in the playoffs, and of course Cabrera got aboard, but it's followed up by a double play. You've got to be kidding me. Every single time there seems to be some hope, we hit it right at their guy, and here's another example as this is going to end the inning, except Vlad Jr. cannot field it cleanly. Of course he makes the crazy diving play, but not the routine one, but fittingly, we immediately popped up, so it didn't matter, and I cannot believe the Yankees are giving us every single opportunity to win this game. Juan Espinosa going deep to center field, and finally something goes over the fence. That is the first run of the game for either side, and I guess we found the loophole because the game cannot rob us if we don't keep the ball in the yard, as there's 2 away for Valenzuela with 2 on, but unfortunately, he's not able to rally. This may be the most important save attempt of James Getz's entire career because he's facing Vlad Jr. and Aaron Judge, but Guerrero just went down, so Aaron is the final boss, but swings at a fastball, popping it up, and the Pickles somehow won that game. In the next game, we are up 3-2, at least until Yanquiel Fernandez goes deep to straightaway center field, so that ended up being a much less dramatic game than the other ones we've played, and now we're just 1 win away from finally making it out of the ALDS, but in true Portland fashion, we're trying to make this one come down to the wire, at least until Andy Pages drives this one into left field. That could easily be the swing that sends us to the ALCS, but the Pickles might not be done rallying as Fernandez goes deep again for a 3-run game-icing home run. These are both great teams, but in the end, our bullpen sent us to the next round, where we're going to be taking on the Boston Red Sox. To my complete surprise, though, this team has added Juan Soto, Spencer Torkelson, and Bo Bichette. I have no idea how we're going to contend with this juggernaut offense, as they're already up by 1 run, but I guess the only way to beat power is with more power. This is an absolute moonshot from McCarty, going back to left field, and they're going to watch that sail over the fence for a go-ahead 2-run shot. However, we're going to need a lot more where that came from because Boston's offense tied it up and thankfully did not score anymore. But then in the 7th inning, Cedeno fell apart, giving up a grand slam, so our rookie pitcher just blew game number 1. However, things have been very different with Ernest Crespo on the mound, as Fernandez is going to bat in the first run of the game. However, McCarty's up and a full count walk loads the bases, so the bases are loaded with 1 out for Espinosa, and of course he hits it right back to the pitcher because that's happened the entire video. We left the bases loaded, and now Boston's making us pay with 4 runs, so it really feels like we're dealing with a super team straight out of my worst nightmares. However, it seems that game 3 is a completely different story, so at the very least, we are not getting swept, but because it seems our offense is woken up, maybe we actually have a chance to pull off the comeback. If we're gonna do that, we have to win this shootout in game number 4, and Mason Valenzuela is gonna extend our lead to 2 runs, so as long as our bullpen can hold, we are in a very good spot, but Juan Espinosa just put this on ice. The first 2 games of the series were not pretty, but we have rallied back very well, but now in game 5, we're trailing by 2 runs, but not for long, as Juan Espinosa is gonna drive in 2 on a single. That is especially encouraging because we just scored with 2 outs and the bases loaded, and another run is going to be driven in by a blooper from Lozano. So I don't know where this offense came from, but I'm glad they decided to show up. However, this game might get interesting as we're unable to extend our 1-run lead. So we're putting our bullpen in another high leverage situation as here's a blooper into right field, and we have 3 guys around it, but of course none of them are going to get it as the tying run scores, but they're also sending the go-ahead run, and he's going to make it in time. That was easily the most Portland Pickles play I've ever seen in my entire life, and as a result, we're actually going to lose this game. I want to forget about this one, but we're facing elimination, and of course, if we want to keep our season alive, we need to rally down 2 runs. We missed an opportunity there, leaving 2 guys in scoring position, but we need to dial it back in because our historic season is literally on the line. So far, things are not looking good, but now Emery McCarty gives us a drive into left center field, going back into the seats for a home run. I cannot believe it. He has come up so clutch this postseason. So now in the 9th, we're gonna get a walk-off chance. It would be so satisfying to end our comeback with a walk-off, but unfortunately, we're already down to 1 out and make that 2. I know we've already had magic work in our favor today, but we need some more because Pablo Cedeno is actually playing well this time around, and a walk-off would set up a winner-takes-all Game 7, but Lozano, what was that? It would be so ironic if an extra inning game was how our season ended, but if we want to avoid that, we definitely need to end this game sooner than later because our bullpen cannot hold forever. Thankfully though, we have both of our first basemen aboard, and Juan Espinosa is gonna be the hero once again, slapping the game-winning run up the middle and keeping our season alive. This series has really been a clash of the titans, and now we need this to drop in left field, but it's not going to. So early on, we trail by a run and make that 2, but then luckily for us, Dalton Rushing tied the game. So up to this point, Game 7 is certainly living up to the hype. So with a man on first, here's playoff MVP Juan Espinosa, who unfortunately grounds out. The good news is that Crespo settled in, so the Pickles are going to get another walk-off chance, which they're not taking advantage of, as there's 2 outs for Dalton Rushing, and we are going to extras. Both of these teams are so evenly matched that neither of them are capable of scoring, but we all know it takes just one big play to change a game as Brian Lozano grounds into a double play. That is not it. Boston's back to the top of their order, so we cannot survive forever, which means that we need our best hitters to make a play, and thankfully Valenzuela hit this one so hard at Devers, he couldn't throw to first. The winning run is officially at first base, but of course, why do I jinx myself every single time? But maybe the 12th of all innings can be when this finally ends, as McCarty's in scoring position for Juan Espinosa, who's come up big before, and at least he advances him, which means we could win this game on a sacrifice fly, which Rushing may have just delivered. McCarty is not very fast with just 28 speed, as he's taking off very slowly. The throw comes in offline, and thank the baseball gods, it is finally over. The Portland Pickles are going to the World Series. I'll tell you what, McCarty was celebrating like that was a guaranteed play, but if that throw comes in, he probably doesn't make it. We need to give the world's biggest shout out to our bullpen for not allowing a single run that entire time, because they're the only reason we're here taking on the Pirates. And just looking at this roster, I already know this is going to be another absolute sweaty. So far though, Game 1 is off to a great start, as we've scored 5 runs, including 3 from Mason Valenzuela, as James Getz is looking to close this one out, and he does exactly that. Lucky for us, we also won a very close Game 2, but now in Game 3, Pittsburgh is trying to keep us from going up 3-0, so it's rally time as Drew Jones walks, which loads the bases for Joaquin Cabrera, who's gonna score the tying run. That was very productive, but there's still 0 outs and a chance to add another run in the form of a sacrifice fly, as that play may have stolen the lead from the Pirates, but this one may crush their hopes and dreams, as McCarty sends it into the right center gap, but it does not climb the fence. I really wanted to see a dinger there, but a pop-up's gonna keep our lead at 1 run, but now there's 2 on for Blair Harrison, who gets out of the inning. It cannot get more intense than James Getz facing the heart of this order, and we're very lucky. The ump called strike 3 on that edge pitch. Here is another one. I've seen those pitches get called either way, so now there's 2 strikes against O'Neal Cruz, who swings through the curveball, and your Portland Pickles are only 1 game away from winning the World Series. Of course, Pittsburgh is not going to let us win it that easily though, as we were down 1 run until Jan Keel tied it up, and I've definitely noticed that while they have an elite offense, their pitching rotation is a completely different story. We are looking to take advantage of their bullpen for more runs, but unfortunately Trout's underneath that, but then they immediately followed up with a 2-run bomb. That is definitely discouraging after just tying it back up, but at least we're going to chip into their lead with another run, but Pittsburgh really will not go away, so this game may be a wash unless we can bounce back as the bases are loaded, and as long as we don't ground into a double play, we should be able able to score a run as McCarty sends this one deep into right. Does it have a chance? It looks like he got a little too much air under it, stopping at the warning track, but it's still a sac fly. Here's 2 aboard for Juan Espinosa, who hit the cover off the ball, but straight to second base. But luckily, we finally stopped their offense, so we have another chance. I know there's still a lot of other games, but a sweep would be awesome. However, this is a double play, so we're officially down to our final chances, and Mason Valenzuela is not able to get aboard. Yanquiel Fernandez is our last hope, and he does drive a single, so there's a pinch runner at first for Randy Trout, but he's taking off. I don't know why he's doing that, because he was just thrown out to lose us the game. We will never know if Jones's aggressiveness cost us a World Series sweep, but I'm definitely starting to get a little bit nervous because they just took the lead in the 6th inning. But even though Espinosa got into scoring position, we are really trying hard not to send him home until Andy Pages drives one into left that goes off the foul pole for a 2-run dinger. That is what I'm talking about. What a way to answer, as that ball barely stayed fair but gave us the lead. But of course, some extra insurance for James Getz would be very nice, as here's Espinosa once again going deep to center field. That is not stopping, all the way to the fence for a home run. Juan has been everywhere for the entire playoffs, and at least through my viewing perspective, he's definitely been the MVP. James Getz just gave up a single, so I'm a little concerned, but here's a grounder to second base, and while it's not a double play, it is a force at second. So now we are just 1 strike away from winning the World Series. We do have to be careful with the tying run at the plate, but there's no doubt in my mind James Getz deserves this. There's the swing and the miss, and the Portland Pickles, after getting eliminated from the playoffs 2 seasons in a row in the ALDS, and after a 7-year long-term rebuild without spending very much money at all, have finally won the World Series. I have played a lot of franchises, but there has been no sweeter victory than finally getting this one. However, with 25 top 100 prospects waiting in the rings, we still have a long way to go, and I want to really uncover this team's full potential moving forward, because while players like Robbie Staub, Guadalupe Moreno, and Spencer Saito have a long way to go, other guys like Gregory Baca, along with our embarrassments of riches at starting pitcher, could find roles on the team very soon. Our offseason starting out very nice, as we only have 1 free agent in this reliever, so we've done a very nice job of managing this roster, although that just means that we're paying more in arbitration than ever. Since we're not losing anybody, we basically have a full roster going into free agency, which is honestly fine with me because there are not a lot of good players in our budget, but I do think I want to add another reliever to replace Mason Engelhart, and Bryce Wilson's here and looks like the obvious choice. That was a very easy offseason, and now we're taking on Pittsburgh to start the year as Mason Valenzuela picks up right where he left off, launching a double into right field. It's being chased and will get down for an easy triple. Him and Joaquin Cabrera were both taken in that first draft class and have been a great infield tandem, but the player I might be most excited about is Emery McCarty, who really came on at the end of last season, and here he is launching a huge double into the left center gap. It was not long ago that we were only up by 1 run, but we've really extended our lead in this inning, and Fernandez is gonna add another one, so it seems there will be no World Series hangover for the Pickles. We're facing our division rivals, the Seattle Mariners, along with former Pickle Eric Lauer, but unfortunately Juan Espinosa just taught him a huge lesson, going yard for a grand slam, and as we saw during their playoff run, this offense is scary good. I knew we were dominant, but a 30-5 record to start the year is ridiculous, but now we're in danger of losing another one to Houston, as this one's unable to clear the middle of the field and will be a double play. As we've seen many times before though, we're fighting to get back in it, and Geraldo just made a very awkward swing that's somehow gonna get through the infield, so now the go-ahead run is at the plate and he walks. That brings up Randy Trout, who's in a contract year, and he makes contact on the first pitch he saw, going deep, and this sac fly makes it a 1-run game. So now Juan Espinosa is our last chance to secure the comeback, but unfortunately that goes right to second base to secure a very rare win against the Pickles. Of course, in baseball you can't win them all, but that has hardly been the case with this Pickles team, as they refuse to lose, and their offense is certainly reminiscent of it, as it also seems their starting pitching has gotten even better despite making the choice this offseason to move on from Matt Waldron. Last season we broke the single season win record, and we're continuing to get better, especially because we now have 3 first-round picks, which may be the last thing that a team with 26 top 100 prospects needs in their future. I'm very curious how many top 100 prospects we can accumulate, and since we have so much capital, this draft is a huge chance to get even more, as I'm going to start out by drafting this catcher at number 30. Almost always when I have extra picks in the first round, I'm going to go after a closer, since they're usually guaranteed to be pretty good, and I see nothing wrong with taking Mariano Santiago, as James Getz is a free agent this next year, so we're going to need as much insurance at that spot as we can get. It is very nice to see a lot of really high potential position prospects on the board at my next pick, but I think my favorite of the bunch is Kenneth Mateo, Mateo, who's gonna have a high potential range no matter what. But unfortunately with my next selection, I really wanted to take left fielder Aiden Floyd, but he went 2 picks in front of me, so we were forced to pivot not once but twice, as William Chen went right in front of me, which does really suck, but at least there's a couple guaranteed high potential guys I'm gonna take as Waldo Castillo. He was the only player left in the entire draft with guaranteed potential, so he's probably not gonna be that great, but even though he had a few misses, I feel pretty good about that draft. It's hard to complain about this season, as we're 74-22 at the break, and I would be very surprised if this squad didn't bring home at least a little bit of hardware, as Emery McCarty has taken the big jump as the best power hitter on our team, and between him and Randy Trout, we have 2 very good first basemen. There's also a guy like Juan Espinosa, who's enjoying a breakout season and is up to A potential, along with Dalton Rushing, so it's very good to see our guys getting better. However, you cannot have a good season without great starting pitching, and ours has been amazing this year, as even our long reliever Bradley Blaylock is putting it together, while our bullpen has been good enough, and James Getz is performing in a contract year. Funny enough, McCarty and Trout are 1 and 2 in AL MVP, while brace yourself, we have all 3 Cy Young finalists, along with another one of our players, Brian Lozano, going for the batting title. The game only put 2 members of our rotation in the All-Star game, but being real, I think we deserved a lot more, as our list of All-Stars is not stopping, as I've counted 5 so far, and Brian Lozano makes it 6. So overall, a very good season for the Pickles. Now it's time to continue our momentum in the first game out of the break, as here's Lozano, who scored the go-ahead run, and Mason Valenzuela flies out to left field to get another one. This team gets on base more consistently than any I've ever seen, as Trout now has loaded bases with a 1-run lead, but unfortunately that is a double play. It is up to James Getz to secure another save, and so far so good, as he's down to his last out and got him with the nasty curveball, as Portland wins again. Our payroll is so insanely low this year at $49 million, so I'm genuinely curious how much it would cost to extend Randy Trout for just 1 season, maybe 2 if we're lucky, because he's been way too good for me to just let him walk this year, as I'm gonna offer him $15 million and he takes it. That's crazy. I've been trying to keep things realistic, but that one was truly for the fans, because I know how much you guys love Randy, and genuinely, I have no idea why somebody having an MVP season would ever take that deal. James Getz is gonna be a little more expensive than I want for a closer at only 24 years old, but if he's willing to take something like this, I have no choice but to pull the trigger. How about 2 years, 10.8? He's gonna take it. Both of them are clearly on those Portland drugs. We did have both of their replacements on roster in Chris Bush and Gregory Baca, but this makes it just a little more fun. Speaking of fun, it's time to check out this draft class, and it certainly seems like we've made the most out of 3 first-round picks, as we hit on basically everybody except for the very last player, Willie Cabrera. So I always say it, but don't overthink your scouting, trust your team ranks, and also draft guys that are guaranteed high potential, and you'll consistently end up with stuff that looks just like this. In this franchise, we've improved every single season, and this one is certainly no exception, as we broke 120. It definitely makes sense, as Emery McCarty was in second for MVP, while Ernest Crespo won his 2nd Cy Young in a row, along with Cade Horton and Alex Nathan being finalists. But in addition to that, we had 3 guys in contention for the batting title, with Mason Valenzuela taking it home. There is no other way to describe this season besides completely dominant in every single facet, and I've done a lot of MLB The Show rebuilds with teams that have even higher overall players than guys like Joaquin Cabrera and Mason Valenzuela, yet for whatever reason, they just rake. It is time for the playoffs, where we're taking on Texas in the ALDS, and we're down 2 runs, but Mason Valenzuela is gonna drive 1 in. And just as a side note, I want to point out just how good his season was this year, because a lot of you still don't think he's the best player in this draft class. So for all of you Randy Trout glazers, look at this 7.9 WAR. That is ridiculous. That was a legendary first draft class, maybe one of the best of all time, but one of those players, Joaquin Cabrera, grounded into a double play, so it's all going to come down to the 9th inning. We've seen Randy Trout playoff heroics before, and I will definitely take a single, as Yanquiel Fernandez could be the last out, but he smokes this into center field. Randy Trout's gonna test it, rounding third, heading for home. The throw comes in offline, but the tag is applied, so the Rangers win game number 1. Now, as you know, I play with auto base running on, and Randy really should have stopped here, but I think it's great that he wanted to be the hero. But unfortunately, that hoagie roll of a man deciding to run home cost us the game, and now we're tied up in the 9th. Lozano did get runners at the corners though, and now a Valenzuela walk-off sacrifice fly is gonna even the series. But for whatever reason, the Rangers will not go away, as they have the lead in game number 3, and with the bases loaded, McCarty launched this one into left center field, but it's gonna come up just short of the wall. We just needed 1 run and could not get it in a loss, so our dream of going back-to-back is in jeopardy, but there's a huge home run, so we're trying to close it out, but Texas went back back-to-back off of Getz in the ninth. I was begging for a play like that last game, but thankfully in extra innings, Dalton Rushing is going to answer with an RBI double, and I'm really hoping Getz can lock this down. As we're simulating the plays, he gives up a walk, but thankfully, we are not eliminated just yet. We almost lost that game because we only scored 3 runs off of 13 hits, so if we manage to survive this winner-takes-all Game 5, I really hope that turns itself around. Pablo just gave up a run, but thankfully gets out of this, so here's a redemption chance for James Getz, who can send us to the ALCS, and the high fastball gets Wong swinging, as it certainly was not a pretty series, but Ben, don't break, we're moving on. For what it's worth, that was a pretty good Rangers team, but as you can see, there's going to be no room for error against a loaded Boston Red Sox squad. I'm going to sim the first game, which we win, but as you can see, the second matchup is up for grabs in the 8th inning. Valenzuela is on first base with 2 outs, and now Emery McCarty delivers with a huge double into opposite field to finally deliver the first run of the game. So it is once again a big moment for James Getz, but he jams Bo Bichette, who pops up, and the Pickles go up 2-0. It really feels like they found their footing after a rough series against Texas, as there's a 19-6 win, where the offense was certainly not an issue. They had 25 hits and 19 runs. That is very exciting. I think that win alone makes up for all of the 1- and 2-run games throughout the postseason. As they're looking for a sweep to advance to the World Series, here's Yanquiel Fernandez going the other way, all the way deep into left field and off the wall, where Randy Trout is being tailed by his teammates. He has no choice but to go home, where he's gonna be thrown out. That is the second time in October that Randy's biggest weakness has hurt him, but thankfully Andy Pages comes up clutch with a full count 2 RBI single. To be fair to Trout, that base runner was riding his coattails like this was the freeway, so I don't know if the teammate forgot that he was dealing with Randy and not Mike Trout, but he set him up for failure. Another insurance runner too would be very nice here, and thankfully they were listening to me, leaving a changeup right in the zone, and James Getz is done blowing games as the Pickles rightfully exploded all over the Sox for a sweep. Last year we took on the Pirates in the big game, but our opponent this season is even more weird as we're taking on the Chicago Cubs. But just being completely honest here, I really don't think they stand a chance, as we won the first 3 games just by simulating. And I think you can argue the series against the Rangers was the real World Series, as Dalton Rushing just obliterated that baseball. The best season in baseball history is gonna end things the right way, and just for principle, I'm putting in James Getz to secure this final out, because he's been one of the most dominant players of this entire franchise, and definitely helped start our dynasty, as there is World Series win number 2. You can't outdo the hype of last year's victory, but this one's pretty dang close, because just like any good sequel, the same core of players stayed together for another year and took their games all to new heights. That is very evident by our whole page of 90 overall players, and usually teams only get this much talent when they dump their entire farm system for proven players, but the Portland Pickles are completely different because they have 29 top 100 prospects with more on the way. I think the biggest challenge for us this offseason is going to be navigating the 40-man roster, because while it might not seem like much of an issue, we have a lot of talented players who are eligible for the Rule 5 draft, and because there's only 7 spots left on our 40-man roster, we could be losing a lot of talent. Our team honestly looks exactly the same as it did this time last year, with the difference being that our young core has only gotten better, so I'm very excited to see what's to come. Our mission to three-peat begins as we're up 1 to Toronto, at least until Joaquin Cabrera drives in a run, and I know it's hard to think about our offense being any better than it was last season, but on paper, this unit should be even more improved. We have a 3-run lead as Getz is trying to close it out, but that's not very good because we just signed our star closer to a 2-year extension, so I hope that's not a sign of things to come. This means we're gonna need a rally from our offense in the very first game of the season as Fernandez gets this to drop, so the winning run is on first base as Rushing smokes this, but the play is made. However, they're only gonna get 1. Brian Lozano is our last chance to end this game, and the young outfielder smashes a double into right center field, and here comes Dalton Rushing rounding the bases, gonna need an oxygen tank, but he is in for a signature walk-off win to start the year. In the end, the Pickles did what we expected them to do, winning on opening day, so there are no surprises for a team that's just as dominant as last year. We were looking for a division sweep against the Angels, but unfortunately we're down 2 runs, so it's all gonna come down to the 9th inning where Randy Trout gets a pitch to hit and drives it back to the wall where the defender is unable to get it. That is a huge home run to tie it up. I am so glad that we signed Randy to a 1-year extension, because last year was the best of his career, and I think bigger things are on the horizon. We have forced extra innings where Lozano's gonna strike first, scoring the runner from third to give Getz a chance to redeem himself, which he does, as the Pickles survive again. We are off to an absurd 15-1 start, which seems absolutely ridiculous, but it makes sense considering how many guys we have hitting above above 1,000 OPS. I want to see if this team can break its own win record, which certainly seems greedy, but we have to remember we're not talking about a normal team. We are talking about the greatest dynasty of all time. They've already broken their own record once, so why not do it one more time? And at 40-5, they're on pace to do exactly that. I wasn't really sure how much bonus content I wanted to make for this video, but now that I'm actually filming it, I'm remembering just how fun this team is to play with, and after a 7-episode series of struggle, this has been therapeutic. While the Pickles continue to get better, the Astros have definitely fallen off, as here's a Juan Espinosa go-ahead run in extras, as Portland goes into a different gear in big games, which is definitely an element that's made them even more threatening and is a huge reason for their current win pace. I've never seen a team sim so well, as we're 81-15 at the break, and honestly, that has everything to do with the type of players that were prioritized throughout this rebuild, as there was a big focus on acquiring contact hitters, and that has led to great results as guys like Mason Valenzuela has consistently played well above his ratings, while our starting rotation has been built on high walks per 9, and the results speak for themselves. Funny enough, Randy Trout and Yanquiel Fernandez are 1 and 2 for MVP, and once again, we have all 3 Cy Young finalists with Jared Jones and Alex Nathan leading against Crespo, who's won it 2 years in a row. It appears James Getz is not in line for another Reliever of the Year award, which is a little unfortunate, but looking at his stats, I totally see why. For the second year in a row, we have 2 All-Stars in our rotation, along with James Getz at closer, and just like last year, both of our first basemen came in at 1 and 2. It's a super cool throwback to see former Pickle David Fry make the game at 36 years old, while Yanquiel Fernandez is making his 3rd All-Star appearance and Brian Lozano is making his 2nd. With all the success we're having, I want to keep this core together, but as you can see, that's going to be a little too expensive to get done. So for the first time really in the entire franchise, we're set to lose several key contributors. The writing is on the wall that very much of our World Series core is going to be gone this offseason, but on the bright side, I've had a lot of time to think about this, so I've been preparing the roster for quite some time now to have everybody's replacements ready at AAA, so that certainly makes these losses a lot less painful. It is also very hard to worry about our future when our draft class looks like this, as we killed it once again, as we continue to do one of my favorite things in MLB The Show, which is hoarding prospects, and it's very satisfying to see this never-ending list of A potentials. We are destroying basically every team we come in contact with, as in September, we've already hit 121 wins, so one more against Seattle can get the job done, but we're gonna need a rally. Thankfully, Drew Jones just stole a base, and now Emery McCarty gets everything on this one into left field. That is a no-doubter to tie the game. What an absolute clutch moment from our team's best player, and after that, the game remains scoreless, where we went to extra innings, but Drew Jones is trying to not let it last long, launching a go-ahead home run. If we do hold on to win this game, all I can say is what a way to break your own win record, as we've delivered not one, but 2 very clutch dingers, and now the man who started it all has a chance to put the nail in the coffin, and he does exactly that with another run. Just 1 year after a 121-win season, the Portland Pickles have 122, but the crazy thing about this achievement is there's still over 2 weeks of baseball left to play, so in a season where the second highest win total was 99, the Portland Pickles won 133 games. That is the 3rd season in a row they broke their own win record, and let me just start by saying this is a video game, so I don't expect any real-life team to ever hit this figure in real life, and even then, I don't think I've ever won this many games in a single season before, as we have truly created not just the best MLB team of all time, but the best MLB dynasty to ever walk the earth. I have never seen this before, but we have 3 MVP finalists in Randy Trout, Emery McCarty, and Yanquiel Fernandez, and while Trout did win the award, looking at the stats, it looks like it could have gone to either of them. Honestly, it should have gone to McCarty because he had a WAR of 6.8 as opposed to Randy Trout's 4.5, but Randy becoming the first MVP of this franchise is very fitting and well-deserved in his last season with Portland. So we have our 3 MVP finalists, but also 3 for the Cy Young, as Ernest Crespo, who won the award 2 times in a row, has been dethroned by Pablo Cedeno. This is so fitting because for a long time, these guys were the #1 and #2 pitching prospects in all of baseball, but even though Pablo won the award, I feel like it should have gone to Crespo, who had the higher WAR of 4.9 versus Pablo's 3.8. Hopefully that doesn't spark any locker room tension right before the playoffs, but one thing that is for sure, Mason Valenzuela took home the batting title, even though he's been absolutely slammed by regression, so it's very nice to see him have another good year. James Getz was a Reliever of the Year finalist yet again, but it's very clear he is no longer the best closer in all of baseball because this Clifford England guy has come out of nowhere and blown his socks off. I keep thinking James is older than 25 years old, but he's been in the league for 7 seasons seasons. So it's simply incredible he's played so well over so many seasons, as he is a 5-time All-Star. I don't think we have anybody in the running for Rookie of the Year, but think again, because Phil Bird is here with a 12-1 record, putting together an extremely impressive season and getting all the way up to 84 overall. That is very cool, but now we have to check out the Hank Aaron Award, and for some reason, even though we had 3 MVP finalists, Juan Soto took it. Regardless of the questionable award logic, we're taking on Tampa Bay in the ALDS. Game 1 has been slow for the offense, so thankfully Crespo is pitching a shutout so far because it's definitely carried us, as we have runners at the corners in the 7th, but a shallow pop-up into left field is gonna end the inning. Tampa Bay only has 2 hits today off of Crespo, and now MVP winner Randy Trout's going the other way to try and clear the bases and put this game on ice, except the problem is that Emery McCarty has no speed rounding the bases. This one's gonna be very close, coming in, and it is barely not in time. We're gonna let Crespo go the complete game and finish what he started, as a called strike 3 secures the Game 1 victory for the Pickles, and I genuinely fear that's gonna be Tampa Bay's only chance. The reason I say that is really because no team in baseball is suited to go up against our dynamic rotation, but to my surprise, our offense has had another slow start, as we just left 2 on in the 7th inning. Hunter Green has shut us down, and even though we're making contact, it's not hitting the ground, so we're once again relying on the 9th inning, where Emery McCarty starts out strong with a double into right center field, which gives Randy another chance to be the hero. He's faced with a full count, and now he walks, which gets the tying and the winning runs on base for Juan Espinosa. There is no way. He has plenty of power, and he uses it to give Portland a huge come-from-behind walk-off victory. Juan Espinosa, our 22-year-old star, gets it done, and it feels like every time we watch this team play, we get a movie. Just as I've done throughout this entire mega video, I need to remind you guys that I'm playing on Hall of Fame difficulty, and I know it might not seem like that because I'm showing you guys the highlights, but these players are really just playing to their ratings. Another win will advance us to the ALCS, and there it is, as we were too much for the Rays, just like we were too much for the Red Sox last year, and they happen to be our next opponent. This is a pretty good team that's looking for redemption from last season, as we're tied in the 9th inning, and the pitcher we're facing is Tom Cosgrove, who, if you're up to date on your pickle lore, you know he played for the team for a long time. It's definitely nice to see that he's had a very consistent career since leaving Portland, and he's also done pretty good work against us as he sends this to extra innings. There are 2 on for Phil Bird in the top of the 10th, but thankfully the rookie's able to get out of the inning, so we have a chance to win this thing as Espinosa shoots this one right up the middle. I wasted no time putting in a pinch runner, and I'm very glad I did, because the winning run is on second base and now third with 2 outs, so it is all up to Drew Jones to send him home, which he does on the first pitch he saw, as the Pickles have walked off another playoff game. That was another pretty sluggish offensive game, but we came through when it mattered, and even with the struggles, I know it's only a matter of time before this offense wakes up and becomes the beast that we know it can be. A Valenzuela blooper just broke a 6th inning tie, and Cabrera does the same exact thing to score another, so even though it's kinda weird, you cannot argue with the results, as the MVP runner-up loads the bases for the MVP winner, and Randy Trout's gonna take advantage with a huge double off the wall. It wasn't a grand slam, but it still secured a huge victory, as we lead the series 2-0 and make that 3-0. I feel very bad for Red Sox fans, as they're on pace to get swept by the Pickles 2 seasons in a row in the ALCS, as our bats have come alive and there's a 2-run dinger. So Boston's an absolute shambles, especially after Randy Trout delivers the dagger to send the Pickles to their 3rd World Series in a row. It's so fitting that this is a World Series rematch against the team that we defeated to win our first title, but unfortunately for Pittsburgh, they lost Paul Skeens and their rotation is not good, while Portland pretty much has the same exact team as they had 2 seasons ago, with everybody just getting a little bit better. I'm afraid to say it, but the Pirates don't stand a chance, especially because it looks like Game 4 against the Red Sox really woke up this offense. We won 15-2. Game 2 is much closer though, as Espinosa just made it 4-3, so it really seems this one will come down to the wire, as our bullpen is held very strong and James Getz closes it out. It also just hit me, the Pickles may have an undefeated postseason on their hands, at least until they lost Game 3. So that was bad timing, but now they're gonna win Game 4 with ease, to officially bring them 1 win away from the very elusive three-peat, as Espinosa gives us a ride into right field in a tie game, but it's caught. That looked very good coming off the bat, as Lozano keeps the inning alive, as all the pressure is now on Cabrera, who walks. This is a great opportunity for Emery McCarty, who got one to hit, but unfortunately just didn't get enough sauce on it, so we left the bases loaded, but Horton locks him down, and then we score a run. So we're in a great spot, and there's a dinger for Brian Lozano, so even though Pittsburgh scored a couple runs, it's not going to make any difference, as Getz is in the game, and here's a fly out deep to center field, which is caught to secure a three-peat for the Portland Pickles. The trophy ceremony looks exactly the same as last time, and that's literally because the same people are on the team, as we're not even a 10-year-old franchise. However, this offseason could define our future, because I have no idea how the heck we're going to manage losing 5 very important players, starting of course with the first player we ever drafted and the defending MVP Randy Trout. But don't forget that Yanquiel Fernandez was right behind him and also received votes in 2029. And when you add in the loss of our starting catcher and a very important underrated player in Mason Valenzuela, I do not know how we're going to get through this alive. We have 7 new rookies on our offense, so I am not denying that this year is going to be the biggest transition we've had in a long time. So I think as far as bonus content goes, this is really the last obstacle we have to overcome. I'm recognizing a lot of these new players like James K, Hoyt Harnett, Chris Bush, and John Shibuya from previous drafts, while our new starting catcher Fletcher Johnson was acquired in a trade with the Angels a few seasons ago. So it is very fun to see many of them finally get in-game action as Shibuya launches this one to second base where it's not played cleanly, and that's how he gets aboard. We are watching a brand new generation of Pickles trying to fill the shoes of guys like Randy Trout and Mason Valenzuela, and just like we became known for, we're an extra inning. It was not a pretty opening day win, but we got the job done, and there's no doubt the glare from the sun made that more difficult than it needed to be, and Fletcher Johnson just tied the next game. Fletcher is a very important piece of this reload because he has 97 potential, and because he was sitting behind Dalton Rushing for so long, he is ready to show what he can do. I cannot believe we're in extra innings for the second game in a row, but just like last time, we're going into left field to score the first run. And now here's first baseman Chris Bush, who we have seen before, but we're going to need him more than ever to fill Randy Trout's shoes. And he advanced the runner, who would later score, but our former teammate Andy Pages delivered a 2-run shot. That is a terrible time to give up the game-tying home run to who honestly was probably our worst departing free agent, but given our history with the Red Sox, I guess it makes sense they wanted to sign a former Pickle. Here is James K, a very talented 28-year-old rookie who just bunted in the go-ahead run, which helped us do what we do best, beating Boston. Our new squad just swept a playoff team, which was a huge confidence booster for their first month, as they got off to a 22-5 start, which is definitely on par with previous seasons. Even with the play of our offense, I feel our starting pitching is the biggest reason for our success, and just looking at it, it's amazing that this exact core has been fully intact since 2030. In all the chaos, I have not gotten a chance to talk about Emery McCarty, and maybe I should start now because he did get robbed of an MVP last season by Randy Trout, but this home run to start the next month reminds everybody that he is still here. McCarty had 6 RBIs in a 4-run win, and all I can say is the rest of the MVP candidates better watch out because he is coming in full force. Speaking of Randy Trout, however, he signed with the Cleveland Guardians to play second fiddle to another 99 overall player, and honestly, I'm surprised by this because I thought he was leaving Portland to become somebody's Michael Jordan, but instead it seems he is perfectly fine being Scottie Pippen, especially given the low contract he signed for. Regardless, it seems the Pickles really are not missing Randy, as it seems a lot of the new additions on offense had some trouble getting acclimated at first, but ever since, they have been on fire and closed out the All-Star break on a very good note. There is no doubt that having the MVP and a bunch of Cy Young leaders definitely helps, but honestly, I'm kind of disappointed we don't have more representation in the All-Star game, because even though 3 pitchers, including James Getz, made the game, on offense, Emery McCarty was our only representation. Maybe the reason baseball fans didn't vote for our players is because they are tired of watching us win games just like this one coming out of the break against Seattle. We just took an extra innings lead, and oh my gosh, we just killed him. His head is gone. He is still laying on the ground. Bro, are you okay? That was second baseman Dan Castilla who hit him in the face, and if you guys remember, I traded for this guy from the Yankees and basically hailed him as the next Mason Valenzuela, with the exception that he can actually field. So I'm glad that insane play gave me the opportunity to reintroduce him. We've gotten to the insane point in the video where there's almost nothing we can do on the trade deadline to improve this team, and that is just one of the rewards for developing this very loaded farm system, as we're pretty deep at almost every single position. I set scouting to auto, yet the Pickles still drafted an amazing draft class, which honestly speaks volume to their dominance in that category. And honestly, after several seasons of simulating, I really don't think we can do much more to set this team on a better path. I think this is especially evident because we just finished with 134 wins, so that means even though we lost Randy Trout, Yanquiel Fernandez, Mason Valenzuela, and more players, this team still managed to finish with a better record than last year's by 1 game. If you want to sim well, just make sure all your players have walks per 9 above 70 and you will be okay, as I'm still in shock, not because we avoid getting worse, but because we actually somehow improved. In a season like this, there's obviously going gonna be some hardware, but look who won the MVP. It is not Emery McCarty. He got curbed for the second year in a row by his own teammate, and this time it was a starting pitcher in Pablo Cedeno. I think this guy was like the third or fourth starter in our rotation this year, but he went off, and apparently he just simulates very well because he took home the Cy Young again, while Joaquin Cabrera, who's now down to 80 overall, took home the batting title with a 356 average, and James Getz won his very elusive 4th Reliever of the Year award. John Shibuya narrowly missed out on Rookie of the Year, and it was another rookie in Chris Bush who took home the DH Silver Slugger over even a former Pickle, Andy Pages. With established new blood in the organization, I think there's nothing left for us to accomplish besides this last playoff run, and there is no team I'd rather end things off against than the Boston Red Sox. To say we've had this team's number for the past couple seasons is definitely an understatement, because this rivalry has gotten to the point that when the Red Sox say Happy Father's Day, you know they're directing it towards the Pickles, as Juan Espinosa launches this into the left center gap and that hops over the fence. Once again, the wall in Pickle Park has saved a run, as we're still trailing by a run with the bases loaded, but not for long. Ryan Clifford hits this well enough for a sacrifice fly. Now Fletcher Johnson is going to give us our first lead of the ball game to help Portland once again embarrass the Red Sox. I think it's time for us to send Boston home for the offseason, as the Pickles are moving on to another signature matchup against Randy Trout and the Cleveland Guardians. Of course, this was not a bad year for Trout, but it was nowhere close to where he got in his MVP campaign, and while Game 1 has been a very fun homecoming reunion for Trout and the Pickles, the team that drafted him is looking to eliminate him from the playoffs and got off to a strong start in Game 1. That was a very competitive first game, so it's clear Cleveland's going to be a bit more of a challenge than Boston was, as we're also trailing in this matchup and just left runners stranded on base. We've had so many chances to get back in this one, but nothing is dropping, and now with runners at the corners again, batting title winner Joaquin Cabrera pops it up. That gives us 4 runners left on base in 2 innings, but here's Juan Espinosa doubling, although it's not going to score McCarty from first, so we need someone to clutch up and send him home, and while Chris Bush lines out, it's going to be enough for 1. Now here's Drew Jones, who's having a career season, and this single might just do it as Espinosa's rounding third, heading for home, and the throw comes in offline to tie the game. Our offense has learned to finish at just the right time, as here's Fletcher Johnson continuing the rally to give Portland their 3rd run of the inning and the lead. I don't know if our offense is taking bumps in the dugout or what, but that would be a very Portland thing to do. And I know that after this game, they're going to have a very intense conversation because their bullpen gave up 4 runs and now the game is over. Chalk it up as another win for the Pickles. And after that demoralizing loss, I cannot blame Cleveland for just giving up, as Randy Trout's former team eliminates him and he gets to watch them play their 4th World Series in a row from his couch. Unfortunately for the entire league, it turns out the Giants are the worst team we played through the entire postseason, so now we are 1 win away from securing the sweep and putting a bow on this very long journey with the Portland Pickles. While I love watching the Pickles' ascension, I kind of feel bad for the rest of baseball, because if you remember at the beginning of this story, they were one of the most charming, fun underdog stories to watch, but one great draft class led to a bunch of others, and the rest was history. If you remember, this team only won 19 games in its first year of existence, but they've improved every single season, and this year they only lost 28 games. There's no doubt in my mind this will not be the team's last World Series win, especially because all the new players we brought up this year have a lot more team control and more room to develop. Then of course when those guys are gone, we still have 35 top 100 prospects in our system, so we're not going away anytime soon, and at least as far as we know, aliens may take over the earth before the Pickles dynasty comes to an end, because it seems nothing human can stop this train. While we're reflecting on this journey, please drop down below what your favorite memory of this entire series is, because honestly, I can't even name just one. As I've said it before, but this series completely changed the course of my channel and therefore my life, and I cannot thank you guys enough for sticking it out through this entire 10-year journey. I created a new MLB franchise and brought them all the way from zero to hero, and as they say, perhaps the real Portland Pickles are the friends you made along the way. I really appreciate you guys sticking it out all the way through the end of this full movie, however long it took, and if you did enjoy, please drop a like and let me know you're still here by commenting the pickle emoji down below. As always, click right here to see more of my content and have a great day.